resulting in the sanction. Karinda Jagmahan reports.
Magotwe was accused of failing to follow review procedures when compiling forensic reports of evidence found at both the Vereeniging murder scene and during the arrests of suspects in Bramley in 2024. The evidence, including an AK-47 rifle, was later linked to at least 20 other high-profile murders. Magotwe's initial report comprised several errors and omissions, which prompted additional investigations, incurring further state expenditure. While he issued a corrected version of his report, he failed to stipulate specific dates as per SAPS policy. Meanwhile, Magotwe is set to return to the Pretoria Magistrates Court on the 20th of August, where he is charged with defeating the ends of justice. Karinda Jagmahan, Eyewitness News.
Not a single rand was lost to corruption during the construction of Mpumalanga's new 1.6 billion rand King Nyabela Hospital, according to President Cyril Ramaphosa. The president says the project was completed on time, within budget, and now stands as a model for public infrastructure delivery. The new 220-bed hospital replaces the more than 100-year-old Middleburg Hospital and will serve more than 240,000 people across the Nkangala district. That's where we find EWN reporter Mongezi Koko. Mongezi, a successful opening ceremony.
That's right, in Goskona, at least according to President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, construction of the hospital began in 2017 to replace the aging Middleburg Hospital, which had become too costly to maintain. The project also created more than 101,000 work opportunities during its construction. President Ramaphosa began the day with a walkabout of the facility before cutting the ribbon to officially open the hospital. He later addressed healthcare workers, community members and government delegates, describing the project as evidence that major public infrastructure can be delivered successfully.
The hospital was built on time and within budget, and I've been told that there was no corruption.
Now, in Goskona, the Level 1 District Hospital features 3 state-of-the-art operating theatres, a 24-hour accident and emergency unit, high care services and a full range of clinical departments aimed at improving healthcare access for communities across the region. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News, reporting live in Middleburg.
We shift our focus to the courts now, where prominent attorney Zola Majavu has abandoned his testimony in the trial against former National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. Majavu was set to testify as a state witness after he featured in the testimony of Nombasa Ntsondwa Ndlovu, the Defence Force contractor accusing Mapisa-Nqakula of corruption. Mapisa-Nqakula is facing 12 counts of corruption and 1 of money laundering for allegedly soliciting 4.5 million rand in payments from Ntsondwa Ndlovu. Reports.
When Nombasa Ntsondwa Ndlovu mentioned prominent attorney Zola Majavu in her testimony, she told the court that she was introduced to him by former Defence Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula when she informed her in a panic about media inquiries into her 200 million rand tender. Before he could begin his testimony today, Majavu told the court about his discomfort with testifying, saying he had told investigators about his apprehension because of client-attorney privilege. Majavu says he only met the prosecutor this morning, who assured him that he would only need to confirm certain events and would not have to go into any detail about his consultations. But after Judge Mashutu Munjalele asked him further questions, pointing out that if he's found not to be a credible witness, it may affect how he could appear before her in other matters in the future, Majavu confirmed that he's had a change of heart and would no longer be testifying. Khomza Modise, Eyewitness News at the Pretoria High Court.
The Gauteng Education Department has acknowledged the severity of the crime crisis at Badirile Secondary School in Kutsong. The department says government will expand police-led search and seizure operations to other schools following a spate of serious violent crimes, including murder and assault. Department officials formed part of a joint law enforcement operation at the school today, where authorities discovered several dangerous weapons and warned transgressors of serious consequences for their actions. The operation targets gangsterism, dangerous weapons, as well as substance abuse and other criminal activity in schools. Gauteng Education MEC Lebogang Maile says this is just one aspect of their efforts to create safer learning environments across Gauteng.
This is one of the schools that is very notorious. There are kids here who threaten teachers that they will call zamazamas and criminals to murder the educators. We've got kids here who are gangsters. Some of them, I've just checked their books. There is nothing. They are not coming to school. They are not learners.
And South Africa is hoping its relationship with China will deliver billions of rands in investment, with the government intent on learning from the policies and strategies that transformed China into one of the world's largest economies. Delegates representing Pretoria, including the Limpopo government, are participating in high-level talks and learning best practices at the SA China Energy Investment Conference. Premier Phophi Ramathuba says the goal is not only to attract Chinese capital, but also to understand how China built world-class infrastructure, expanded its manufacturing sector, and lifted millions of people out of poverty through long-term planning as well as industrial development.
Chinese have done very well. Not so long ago, Chinese have been struggling like South Africans. But it took them to have a decisive leadership, to have the political will, and to have the commitment that they've demonstrated over these past few years.
Gold is trading at $4,066.85 an ounce. The rand's at 16.44 to the dollar, 22.10 to the pound, 18.93 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $83.77 a barrel.
In Bedfordview, expect some delays on the N3 northbound approaching the Gilulis interchange due to roadworks. There's also faulty traffic lights in Lone Hill at Lone Hill Boulevard and Main Road.
It's a fine afternoon in Gauteng. Temperatures have peaked at highs between 20 and 22 degrees. The top story in EW in the Sawa, a senior SAPS ballistics expert, was a part of investigations into the murder of Vereniging engineer Armand Swart, has been suspended without pay for 1 month.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's 8 minutes past 3 on Tuesday, the 4th of August. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Welcome to the show. Eskom is setting new performance records and certainly doing way better than it was a couple of years back. 441 days in a row without load shedding. Of course, that doesn't mean that everybody has power all the time. Nevertheless, there are questions being asked about aspects of what these numbers mean. Questions asked whether Eskom has turned a significant and perhaps even final corner, or whether there are many twists in the road ahead. We'll explore that with analyst Chris Yelland after 4. Sport, Arts and Culture Minister Gayton McKenzie will be accounting to Parliament today for the 31 million rand spent on a wide range of people, and a significant number of them too attending the 2026 World Cup. Babalo Ndenze is watching that story for us. There was some delay, it seems, in the start of that hearing, so we'll let you know when Babalo will have banked up enough questions and answers to come and share what he's learned. Banyana, speaking of sport, play a must-win match in Morocco tonight. They must beat Burkina Faso. Unfortunately, they've got to hope that Côte d'Ivoire get the same result against Tanzania. We'll look ahead to that game shortly. And we'll find out after 5 how the severe heat in Europe has affected that continent, that region's olive oil industry. And in turn, we'll ask this question: is that a boon to our olive oil producers if there's a shortage in Europe? Do we have the capacity to go and fill it and start building up a very important and very interesting industry in South Africa? Or if you look across the supermarket shelf, well, there's lots of olive oil there from Spain, Italy, Greece, and I think Portugal come immediately to mind. Is this going to put an additional burden on South Africans? Can we get well-priced South African olive oil in place if the European product becomes really expensive? Very interesting set of dynamics. Trouble in one part of the world, of course, can mean trouble for everybody. I just need to mention a different kind of oil, crude, for you to know exactly what I mean. At the same time, little gaps open up in markets, And we'll talk to the Olive Oil Association of South Africa at 5:20, as I said, to find out how they're seeing this opportunity. And on this day, 125 years ago, this man was born.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Louis Armstrong, born on this day in 1901. Where else but in New Orleans. So, that's an absolutely wonderful song. I thought it was much older than it really is, but it actually only came out in 1967. So if you think about the life and legacy of Louis Armstrong, it's a relatively new song in terms of the complete canon of his works. But here's the question we're going to ask you as we play you some music a little bit later. Songs that were written and released before you were born. Which are your favorites? Do you have a favorite? And maybe there's a little story that goes with it that will tell us, where you heard the song, who introduced you to it. Songs that came out before you were born but still have a place on your playlist and in your heart. We'll do that sometime at around 20 to 6. 67, unfortunately, and I really love that song. I'm going to have to go further back into the 50s. Yeah. Anyway, on the markets, if only all days could be like this one, the JSE is up very much so. The oil price is down, the rand is stronger, so is the gold price, and the price of platinum is on a real upward tear. So let's start with the oil share, up today by 1,435 points. That's driven by a 3.4% spike in the resources index, and that index in turn is being pushed by platinum. The price is up by $87.77. No surprises then that Sibanye is up by 7.3%, Valterra by 6.2%, and Implats by 5.8%. Nedbank has also gained 5.2%. Nothing to do with platinum unless you count platinum credit cards, I suppose. On the downside, Karoo is weaker by 4.3%, Foschini by 2.8%, Telkom by 2%. The rand is trading at 16 rand 43 against the dollar, 5 cents stronger than this time yesterday. A euro will cost you 18 rand 92. That's an 8-cent gain for the rand, and 22 rand 10 will get you a pound. That's a 9-cent gain over 24 hours for our currency against sterling. The gold price is up by $11.08, and oil prices, as I said earlier, continuing to ease. Brent crude down by $1.43 a barrel, currently trading at $81.91. Stephen Curtis joining us with market news at 4:25. We'll get sport with Tolakele Mganga. Karabo Chali has the traffic news, and Kosikona Malinga Mnisi, you heard him a moment ago. He's back in about 16 minutes' time with the latest news headlines at 3:30. We're going to bring you the stories as soon as we get them. We're going to tell you as much as we can about everything we know. But you know what? You're out there, you've got an ecosystem, you've got your own grapevine, and you suddenly come across things, good or bad, that you've heard about or seen. So if it's happening in 702 land and we don't know about it, please do get in touch. 072 702 1702 or 011 883 0702. By the way, you do not have to only use that line in order to be a news reporter, much as we do appreciate that, but you can also get in touch with us and give us your comments. Give us your comments on what you think about the big news stories of the day. This is 702 Drive. It's 3:15.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
I saw a very, very interesting piece in The Guardian. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Travel Etiquette, How to Handle 36 Tricky Situations from Man-Spreaders to Smelly Armpits. And they go through a whole lot of things in public transport. So what for you are the don'ts when you're on public transport? Now, that could be a taxi, it could be a bus, it could be a train, it could be an aeroplane. I don't know if I've left anything out, I suppose. I don't think anyone commutes by boat at the moment, but they always are things that arise. This one, for example, can I ask someone to move so that I can sit next to my friend? No, Rifue Letso is absolutely shaking her head. Karabo Charlie. Yes, no.
Hey, I don't mind. Hey, they're friends. Why are you hating?
Okay.
Can I just interject?
No, hold on. I'm going to run a few more by you. Is it rude to move away from a stranger when more seats become available?
If they've got smelly armpits.
No, if they are just, there's nothing else about them except you don't know them. Is it fine?
It is fine, provided that, let's say, a seat that you really wanted is now vacant. I do that all the time. I just move.
Yeah,
I don't have to sit next to you. We're not
I
married.
want more space. They are. I must tell you, they always are relieved. Can you take up 2 seats on a bus if you have a huge suitcase and nowhere to put it?
Absolutely not, because that's why they've got these. What are they called? You know, where they put the baggage in.
Yeah, but what if there's enough seats already?
Okay, yes, that's fair enough. But sometimes people do that and there are no seats and you have to ask, is someone sitting here?
Okay, one more.
Yes.
There's so many more, but I think it's this is fun. If somebody in the next seat, and this is be more on an aeroplane actually, because you tend to be with them for longer, is snoring or dribbling on you, can you wake them up? And the answer, the experts they consulted, which doesn't make them experts, it's just people they consulted who are called experts, they say dribbling yes, but snoring no. You cannot wake up the person next to you if they're snoring.
But have they given the reason though? Because I mean, if there's the cute snoring that almost sounds like a baby snoring, and there's like a grizzly bear snore. Which one are we talking about? Grizzly bear or cute little kitten baby situation?
Maybe there's an app where you can rate the snoring on the equivalent of the Richter scale. Okay, 3 more. I said that was the last, but 3 things all related. Can you put on makeup on public transport? Yes, no, straight.
Yes, why not?
That's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Can you groom your hair, comb it, brush it?
No.
Okay, Karabo, not a big issue.
I think you could, but it also depends how much grooming are you doing. Are you undoing your hair? What's happening? What's the situation and how long? For me, I'm like, if it's like a little, I'm just going to tie my hair up, that's fine.
Can you do your nails? 2 categories. Obviously, apply color or gloss. Yes.
Sometimes
those
those things smell, so the smell will be a turn off.
Too strong. Can you clip them?
Yeah. What if?
No.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so these are just some of the questions, and there are many, many, many more. Loud conversations on phones. Can you open the window? Can you ask somebody to use headphones if they're listening, or what's quite common, watching YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that? I'm going to throw this open to our listeners. Do's and don'ts on trains, planes, buses, and taxis. Give us your list. And if you want to comment on any of the ones that I've actually shared with you, do let us know what you think. I think this is fun. Let's find out what people have to say. Okay, well, whether you are sharing a taxi space, driving your own vehicle, or listening to the radio and hoping the bus driver is also listening to 702 Drive, particularly to Karabo Chali, let's find out what's happening in the traffic. How does it look?
Well, not looking too bad, I must say. However, there's just the one issue in Bedfordview. Expect some delays. N3 northbound approaching the Gilulis interchange. This is due to ongoing roadworks. Look out for those faulty traffic lights in Lone Hill, at Lone Hill Boulevard and Main Road. In Sharon Lee, traffic lights still not working at Malibongo Drive and President Foucher, as well as in Edenville at Morafontein Road and Van Riebeek. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
The most people in this country who are subjected to violence and assault are women and children. That's just the reality. So let's not try equate the two and say it's at the same level. It's not. The statistics don't demonstrate that. And yes, are there men out there who are probably in prison for being wrongfully accused? Absolutely. Are there men in our society whose careers have been ruined because an ex was upset that the relationship is ending? Absolutely. But do you know how many people are scared to even have this conversation? They are. They are scared because they're scared of being seen as you're a misogynist. I know that there are people that are going to come after me for even opening up this chat. And you know the sad thing? The people who falsely accuse men, they ruin it for other women who genuinely get assaulted.
Clement Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
Here with Sakiti post-match, playing locally and globally. How are you coping?
Super simple. With FNB Private, one monthly account fee gives me access to local and global advice and solutions. From spending internationally through my FNB Global account and credit card to structuring offshore investments for the future.
Ah, so that's how you win globally.
Switch to FNB Private. FNB. Help changes everything. FNB is a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Make sure that your life-changing donation goes exactly where it's meant to. With Izinga Assist, you can give with complete confidence because every donation is secure, transparent, and traceable. Funds are safely managed through a dedicated ShopRite Money Market account, and you'll receive clear proof showing the impact of your contribution. Give with trust today at izassist.org. Izinga Assist. Doing good, done better. Proudly supported by Primedia Cares.
Checkers brings you better freshness, better choice, and better value every day. On deals like Jacob's Kroning Instant Coffee 200 or 230 grams, any two for 299 Rand, save 101 Rand. And Finish dishwashing tablets 45, 50 or 56 per pack for 229.99, save 60 Rand. Plus get up to 40% back in U-Count rewards with your qualifying Standard Bank card. Valid until 10 August, only at Checkers.
Humans are very good at planning some things. A weekend bribe, being first in the queue for fresh cinnamon rolls. But the big things? Like what happens to the people we love if life suddenly changes? Not so much. That's why Liberty and 702 are having a conversation about protecting your family's financial future. This Wednesday on the Clement Mangatela Show, a Liberty expert answers your questions, helping you turn uncertainty into a plan. WhatsApp your questions about life and legacy planning to 072-702-1702 with the keyword Liberty. Join the conversation and take the next step towards securing your family's future. Liberty, in it with you on 702.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, still to come on the show. We're going to be talking after 4 o'clock at about 20 past 4 to Khalid Galant, who is the CEO of Drug Free Sport. And the issue that has come up is yet another schoolboy rugby star has tested for performance-enhancing drugs. We'll talk in more detail about the circumstances. One of the young man who was tested positive previously had already reached national ranks as an under-20 player. But do we have a larger problem that this is just the tip of the iceberg in regard to, or are these outliers? That and more questions when Khalid Galant joins us in roughly an hour's time. Let's focus our attention now on the courts and focus our attention in particular on what's happening at the court case involving Vusimuzi Katmatlala and 4 others. Very protracted legal argument about the admissibility of various things that have happened. Let's go to Dimakatso Lishoro, who is our reporter waiting to give us an update on that. Dimakatso, very good afternoon to you. What's been happening in the court today? I believe Lieutenant Colonel Tumelo Tsotetsi is now is involved, as is a number of other witnesses. What's been happening? Good afternoon.
Hi, John. Good afternoon. Indeed, Lieutenant Colonel Tumelo Tsotetsi has just concluded his testimony. He started getting evidence yesterday and concluded his evidence in chief this morning. He just concluded now. What came out from his evidence are inconsistencies in parts of the evidence, especially with regards to, what happened after Musa Kekana was arrested. As you have alluded to, this whole application of a trial within a trial is regarding the admissibility of evidence when Musa Kekana was arrested. So they gave, conflicting accounts. As you recall, the captain who testified prior to the lieutenant now, in some instances would forget some of the events that took place when he was confronted, and some of it he had said that he couldn't remember stuff that perhaps was in his statement or in his diary that he did not record, such as whether Kekana received medical attention at the scene where he was arrested. His version was that he was moved to his house and never left his side. However, today we heard from Colonel Tsoteti that, in fact, Musa Kekana received attention where he was arrested. There was also an issue about a Fortuner where Kekana claimed that he was put in the boot of this Fortuner and transported to his house. Remember, at this point, he would have been in handcuffs, and it would have been a month after he was hospitalized due to this lung condition where he was coughing up blood and claiming that, he was still sick, he was coughing at the time. So a bit of conflicting, testimonies there. I'm not sure how the state will deal with that. What we know is that they are intending to call the medic that attended to Kekana at the scene. They are intending to call the doctor that would have seen him to testify to his condition, because remember, Kekana claimed that he was tortured by Sekgobela, specifically at his house, where he was saying he must take out and show where the firearms were. And, both Sekgobela and Tsotesi have denied the claims of torture. They've denied that he was not read his rights. They've denied that anything that they did was unlawful. According to them, he was read his rights. There was no evidence or proof of assault. In fact, Tsotesi was asked, if he had told you, what would you have done? He said, I would have helped him to open a case, because we don't do that. We don't assault a suspect. That's what he says.
Yeah.
And none of that happened.
So, Demakatso, the counsel for Musa Kekana, accused number one in this matter and the circumstances of his arrest and what followed, the search of his premises, as you describe it, a trial within a trial. His lawyers, what do they want? Do they want him to be excused completely as an accused? Do they want certain evidence to be inadmissible? What's their end goal?
They want the evidence, and this evidence we are referring to is the firearms. Now we know it's the firearms, an AK-47 assault rifle that was used in another firearm. We understand that there's also ammunition to this firearm. There's a car that was hijacked that we understand was used in the killing of Aman Swat. Remember, that is the case that they were arrested with. So They want all of that to be excluded. Any admissions that he may have made, they want that to be excluded. I don't think that the case will go away, John, because from what we understand from the state, that's not the only evidence they have. They have other forensic evidence. They have pictures. They have all sorts of technological evidence that link the suspects to these three cases where there's been claims of attempted murder. But we are going to have to wait, because now the case has been postponed to the 31st of August. This is because Advocate Gesing addressed the court a short while ago, saying that he was not available yet, tomorrow and Thursday, but also he has another matter that he had already informed the court about at the start of the trial, that he wouldn't be available for 3 weeks. But as it turns out, the state witnesses that were supposed to come in, the medic and the doctor, have also not been consulted with, so they are not ready to come to court and proceed with this trial within a trial. So it looks like, still in early September, we'll still be seized with the trial within a trial and not yet, going into the main trial that they are facing.
Thank you so much, Dimakatso Leshoro. It's intricate stuff, but made very, very clear there. And Dimakatso, once that trial resumes in late August, will, I'm certain, be back, I nearly said in the dock, in the benches behind the dock, and updating us on everything that's going on. 702 Drive, it's 3:30. Right, let's get the very latest eyewitness news, starting at the Madlanga Commission, another very, very, very prominent showcase of what works and what doesn't in the South African Police Service. And Nkosi Malinga Mnisi is with us for all the details. Good afternoon.
That's right, John. Good afternoon. Thank you. IDEC Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Peter Serunya has told the Madlanga Commission that his former boss, Andrea Johnson, allegedly dismissed concerns about flaws in the case against crime intelligence head Dumsani Khumalo. Serunya is giving evidence about IDEC's handling of the 2025 arrests of Khumalo and Crime Intelligence Technical Support Services head Dineo Mukweli. They were arrested over allegations that Mukweli had been appointed to a position without the required qualifications. As Alpha Ramushwana reports.
IDEC Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Peter Serunya says the first irregularity he identified was the fact that a very junior prosecutor was assigned to lead the case against Crime Intelligence head Dumsani Khumalo. IDEC's case was based on the allegation that Khumalo had appointed Dineo Mukweli as head of Crime Intelligence Technical Support Services, despite her alleged lack of the required qualifications and experience. However, the Commission has heard that Mukweli, who holds at least 12 academic qualifications, was actually overqualified. Serunya says he raised these concerns with then IDEC head Andrea Johnson.
She told me straight in front of the two juniors, why are you making an issue about this? Go and work.
On the one hand, like you said, she's a good manager, but on the other, if you were raising concerns and questioning her decisions, she didn't take kindly.
But she didn't take kindly to that. And
Johnson will be given another opportunity to respond to the new allegations against her. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
Arguments against the Expropriation Act continued in the Western Cape High Court today. Legal teams for AfriForum, the Democratic Alliance and two other organizations are presenting arguments this week opposing the act. AfriForum today told the court that one of the most dangerous aspects of the Expropriation Act is that it could allow land to be expropriated without compensation. Carlo Peterson has been following those proceedings.
AfriForum's lawyer Henk Wenger today argued that the phrase including but not limited to in the Expropriation Act creates an unlimited category of situations where the state could decide no compensation is payable when expropriating land. Wenger told the court the wording gives authorities excessively broad discretion, creates legal uncertainty for property owners, and is unconstitutionally vague. Speaking outside court, AfriForum CEO Kali Kriel said AfriForum is asking the court to declare the provision unconstitutional and remove it from the act.
We know what the government intends and the ANC intends. We don't have to speculate. So they want to take land without paying for it on dubious grounds that is in direct contradiction of the Constitution.
The Institute of Race Relations are also presenting arguments against the act in court today. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
And in France, the Weather Service has announced that July was the hottest month ever recorded in the country. Measurements began in 1900 with the highest other recordings noted in August 2003 and July 2006. Europe has been gripped by heat waves and a major drought this year, which scientists have attributed to human-caused climate change. July was also France's third driest month on record, with rainfall nearly 70% below average. This led to increased risks of wildfires, with the largest one destroying 42,000 hectares of land. The weather back home, it's been a fine afternoon in Gauteng. Temperatures have peaked at highs between 20 and 22 degrees.
Bedfordview expects some delays on the N3 northbound approaching the Gilulis interchange. This is due to roadworks. There's also slow-moving traffic in the Edenvale area heading into Bedfordview on the R24 westbound from Edenvale Road to the Gilulis interchange.
The top story in EWN, IDEC Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Peter Serunya has told the Madlanga Commission that his former boss, Andrea Johnson, allegedly dismissed concerns about flaws in the case against Crime Intelligence head, that's Dumsani Khumalo.
702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Mabota, 1 to 3 p.m.
There was a time when we were watching TV in 3x4.
Yes, which is much smaller.
Yes, much smaller, but now we're 16:9. So when editors work, they do what we call a 16:9 framing safe.
Yes.
So when you deliver to SABC, for example, they always have to check that it is safe for everybody's TV and not chop out the sections.
Yes.
So the subtitles don't end up below what people would see. Exactly. So IMAX is you would be watching what is 16:9 today, films that are made for that specific aspect ratio on a microwave TV, and 3x4 almost is square but is not.
No.
702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Mabota.
Let's walk the talk.
This Women's Month, here's to the woman who keeps families connected. The homework, the side hustle, the family group chat, all of it runs through her. She deserves better than a hotspot. Net99 brings real fiber into the Kasi. Uncapped from 379 Rand. Mahala installation, no contract. One connection for the whole family. Just top up and go, like airtime. Real Kasi Wi-Fi. Check your coverage at net99.co.za or WhatsApp 087 245 0099.
Uncertainty is rising, but your business still has to deliver. Production targets need to be met. And when your workforce is out of balance, the cost is immediate. Too many employees? Costs climb. Too few? Productivity drops. Workforce staffing helps businesses stay in control with flexible workforce solutions deployed within 48 hours nationwide. When demand changes, your workforce can change with it. Visit workforcestaffing.co.za. Stay productive, stay flexible, stay in control.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
The announcement that diesel prices will go up R1.23 a litre and R1.38 a litre. Does the diesel price increase have much of an impact on food prices?
Fortunately, we haven't seen a huge effect so far. So if you think that food inflation at the consumer level, as measured by Stats SA, is 1.4%, the annual rate of increase is, that would tell you there's not a huge amount of price pressure that has moved through that system.
Kevin Lings is the chief economist.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking. Africa's energy future takes more than ambition. It takes turning plans into projects, opportunity into investment, intent into execution. At ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking, we help connect the capital, expertise, and opportunity needed to bring sustainable projects to life across Africa. That's how we're invested in Africa's energy future.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, I've got two things with regard to people on public transport. One is slurping, especially of warm beverages, coffee, tea, soup. It sounds terrible, and I don't think people even realize they do it. And then the other thing is the noises people make when they eat. It's that, you know, the smacking of the lips and the tongue thing they do. I don't know how they do it, but yes, it's not very appetizing while you're drinking or eating and they are making these noises. But yeah, I think it's maybe personal choice. Linda on the way home from Alberton.
Things you should not do while traveling. Dr. John, the one time I was on a flight and this brother sitting next to me, he kept reaching over. I had the window seat. He kept reaching over, his hand essentially right in front of my nose, taking photos of, I think Cape Town, it was Table Mountain, from his aisle seat with his phone right in front of me. Over 5 times. I tried very hard controlling myself. Beef 37 here in Pretoria now. Blessed.
Yeah, and you know, that last example, it would be so simple for that person to have said, hey, listen, I really want to get some pics out of the window. Do you mind if I lean across you? And you might say, you know what, give me your phone. I mean, it's not as if you're going anywhere in an aeroplane apart from where you're going. And then you take them some pictures. Are you happy with this one? You know, I mean, honestly, so much of this is simple. Here's another one. Should I wake a stranger up if I think they're about to miss their stop? Again, wouldn't apply on a plane, but it might happen. I know. I fell asleep on the subway in London very, very late. It might have even been the last train, and I really do wish someone had woken me up because I went many stops beyond, and fortunately, I caught the last train going back the other way. But yeah, these are questions we're asking. Things, do's and don'ts on public transport, planes, trains, taxis, buses, and anything I might have missed. Send those please to 072 702 1702. It's 22-4.
EWN Sport.
Nearly said 20-6. That would have got you scurrying. Tola Kele, what's happening? Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. Well, it's all or nothing for Banyana this evening as they take on Burkina Faso in their final Group B game at WAFCON. South Africa must win and hope that Ivory Coast beat Tanzania in the other fixture in the pool. That's to progress to the quarterfinals. And with so much on the line, Coach Desiree Ellis has discussed the approach he'll employ for the game.
We show what we're capable of. We show the resilience. We show the courage. It's going to take all of that, to make sure. We obviously, first thing, have to keep a clean sheet. I think that is really important for us to. We've never been in front, and an opportunity for us to score so that we can control. But it's a must win. I think the group is in a situation where I think everybody is looking at it and saying, if I win, I have a chance. So we just have to do what we can do. The rest is not up to us.
In transfer news, Ajax Amsterdam have added former Germany goalkeeper Marc-Andre ter Stegen to their roster for the new season as he joins on a season-long loan from Barcelona. His signing follows that of former Germany international Julian Brandt, who was out of contract and signed a 3-year deal last week. Switching to rugby, where All Blacks hooker George Bell will return home after suffering a calf injury in training as he's replaced by hooker Bradley Slater. Bell's expected to be sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks, while Slater will join up with the squad on Wednesday, but he'll play no part in Friday's clash against the Stormers. In the meantime, the Springboks are gearing up for the New Zealand games with a one-off test against Argentina. Assistant coach Dion Davids has discussed the return of experienced campaigners, including Captain Sia Kolisi and Eben Etzebeth.
Now, obviously, it's fantastic to have Eben and Luit back, and also the other players that were injured. Sia, we've got Sasha back, all of those guys. So it's fantastic to see them again wearing the green and gold and play the game. They're experienced guys. They mean a lot. We hope that they find their feet quite well. And now it's a fantastic opportunity for them to play.
And former South Africa first-class cricketer Michael Smith has been appointed Pakistan's batting coach across all formats on a 2-year contract. The 46-year-old will join the squad ahead of their 3-match test series against England, which begins in Leeds on the 19th of August. Smith has previously worked in Pakistan's Super League and as a batting coach for Australia's Hobart Hurricanes and Cricket Tasmania. Tola Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
At 17 minutes to 4 now, let's find out how the traffic is moving and get the latest from Karabo Charlie. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. Well, at this stage, if you're driving through the Joburg CBD heading towards Boysens, there's an accident scene on the M1 southbound. That's at the double-decker section, slowing down traffic. Bedford View, traveling towards Alexandra. There's roadworks causing some delays. N3 southbound. This is approaching the Gilulis interchange. Edenvale, this time traveling into Bedford View. Slow-moving traffic on the R24 westbound from Edenvale Road to the Gilulis interchange. In Midrand, traffic is a bit sluggish on the N1 northbound heading towards Allendale. Also, bumper-to-bumper traffic in Protea Glen. This is on the N12 westbound between the R554 Abu Bakr Drive and the R558. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Still to come on 702 Drive, more news about the listeriosis case that has taken absolute ages to wend its way through all the different legal entanglements, but some progress being made. More on that in 3 or 4 minutes' time. But first, let's just continue our conversation about etiquette, good manners, do's and don'ts when you are on public transport. Now, I've been prompted to do this by a story in the British paper, The Guardian, and the story is entitled "The Ultimate Guide to Travel Etiquette: How to Handle 36 Tricky Situations." Tola Kele, here's one of the tricky situations. We've run a few of the others behind your past your colleagues. Can I ask someone to use headphones if they're doing TikTok or whatever? And if so, how would you go about it? I'll tell you what one of the experts they consult, whose name is William Hansen, director of something called the English Manner. I'm not sure the English Manner would work here, but do you have any tips?
Oh, John, that's so difficult because I also get aggravated when people do that. So
yes.
I think very nicely you can be like, hi, there's just like a lot of noise happening at the moment. Would you be able to lower your volume? And then if they just are like, I don't want to, then you're going to have to take the L, because it's well within their right, as much as it makes the rest of us uncomfortable. If they don't want to do it, we can't force them to do it, unfortunately.
So this is what William Hansen does, and he points out, he says, well, anyway, let me read it first, then I'll tell you how he described it. He says, excuse me, I don't think your headphones are connecting. When they say, oh, no, I don't have headphones, you go, that'll be why. And he says, it's so passive-aggressive, which a lot of British etiquette is. So, yeah, I tried the wise guy approach once at a cricket match, by the way, where someone was listening to the radio at the game, and he was listening to the cricket match, which was incredibly distracting and annoying. And I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, sorry, what's the score? And then fortunately I ducked because it always was coming. Tell me, Tolakele, do's and don'ts?
First of all, in an aeroplane, please don't ask me to sit in the middle seat. You know, the minute that WhatsApp comes through that says, hey, you can now check in and book your seat, there's a reason I pick the window seat. I'm sorry, you guys should have just coordinated if you're traveling as a group. I picked the window seat. And then if you're using a taxi, please, when you order your food, you can't. Karaba knows exactly what I'm going to say. You can't eat the food in the taxi. It's unfair.
No eating food in the taxi.
The smell is going to kill the 14 of us that don't have the food. And you're going to have to share with everybody. So.
I was going to say, I mean, if the person, opens it up and turns to you and say, which do you prefer, leg or drums?
You know what?
Leg or wing? You're going to change your tune, surely.
That's the only time I'll change my tune. That's the only time.
Do taxi drivers,
yes.
I mean, do they intervene and say, hey, no
they
food?
They pointed out, they will say to you, argue with taxi. So, and that's where it ends.
Yeah, okay. And then they may say, if they continue, they must tip the driver as a waiter because he's made this all possible. Do's and don'ts on public transport. Yours, please. Give us a call on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Add a layer to that if you like. The thing that other people do that drives you the craziest. You may want to go a little bit further on that. Give us a ring. 011 883 0702. Here's a contribution.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Ndate John, good afternoon to you and the team. I just listened to the news right now where they said the president just said now that he is told that there is no corruption. I just feel like he's setting himself up for another surprise. So that he can let the country know that he was not aware and he was told. I'm sure during the PPE corruption that he was told there was no corruption. I'm sure the now suspended Minister of Police said there is no corruption, told him there's no corruption. So for him telling us that he is told that there is no corruption does not inspire any confidence at all. Why can't he literally say, I know there is no corruption because I have checked and I am 100% sure I can put my neck on the line on it. He can't say that. So that's why he's setting him up for another surprise. This is Lemmy from Rustenburg.
Thanks very much. I must just check up on the context and what he was referring to. Was he talking about at the hospital that he was opening or referring to the country as a whole? If anyone's got a little bit of clarity on that, or if you sent that voice note, maybe you want to just do it as a WhatsApp text if you don't mind, and just tell me what I should be referring to so I can understand that better. But yeah, certainly you have the lawyer's eye for phrasing. I was told there is no corruption versus I have checked and I've established that there is no corruption. Very sharp ears and eyes. Maybe you are, in fact, a lawyer. 702 Drive. It's 11 minutes to 4.
John Perlman.
On 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Well, we have our current crises and tragedies in South Africa. And then, of course, we have those that seem to just go on and on and on as people on the one side try to drag this towards some kind of resolution in the interests of justice, and others appear to be in no particular hurry. I'm referring to the 2017 listeriosis outbreak. And according to a very good piece in The Citizen by Jared Westerdale, there is some progress being made. There was a ruling in the High Court in April ordering a number of government entities, health, agriculture, forestry, as well as the NICD, National Institute for Communicable Diseases and National Health Laboratory Service to hand over certain records related to both the outbreak and the investigations that followed. So what's in all this data, what's involved in processing it, and what's being revealed? Let's welcome then to the show Amy Tuchten, who's an associate designate at the law firm Richard Spoor Incorporated. Ms. Tuchten, welcome, and thanks very much for giving us your time. I would imagine that the material, now you're getting it, would be voluminous. What's involved in processing it, and is there anything of importance coming out? Good afternoon to you.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, you are correct. We have received a substantial amount of documentation from the NICD, as you correctly put it, although we haven't received responses from the national departments at this stage, and we are doing what we can to try and, enable a more responsive relationship with them. The documents provided by the NICD fall within the purview of Section 14 of the National Health Act. So that is personal information pertaining to our class members, and it includes laboratory reports confirming listeriosis, genome sequencing confirming the strain of listeriosis and that it matches the strain found at Tiger Brands' facilities during the outbreak, and then various investigation reports as well as further evidence that was done at an environmental and food level to trace back the isolates found there to the source of the outbreak. So it's taken a process of digitizing all of that documentation because a lot of it was in hard copy. And the NICD themselves have done substantial work to get all of that documentation over to us as quickly as possible.
You know, I was going to ask you because, maybe I've seen too many movies that involve court cases, but where, a truck pulls up and all these boxes are unloaded. Literally, whether it was a truck or not, but have you and your team, or maybe it's you, maybe you are the team, you've had to literally open boxes, or is it well categorized and at least they're in a sufficient degree of coherence so that you can move, if not necessarily quickly, at least without confusion?
Yeah, so there were some boxes that myself and team members had to pick up. Some team members are more physically strong than others, so I'm very grateful for them.
Except now that would have changed, I would assume, as you all lift boxes. But please carry on.
But the NICD themselves have also undertaken a process of pulling out investigation records and digitizing them further. So I'd call it a joint effort. At this point, it really feels like following the court order that a more conducive relationship has begun to come about between these two parties.
Yeah, it sounds crucial. Say a little bit more, if you will, about where you started, Ms. Tuchten, about 3 departments not as yet complying, and I'll repeat them: health, agriculture, and forestry. A court order is a court order. Is this something that's falling between the cracks, or do you sense there might be a little bit of pushback?
So it is a technicality. We were just discussing it with the team.
Okay.
The court order itself, attached to that court order was the subpoena against the NICD. But in the NICD's testimony during that application, they indicated that some documents lie within the domain of the national departments. So these pertain particularly to the trace back component of the outbreak investigation, which is, as it says, tracing back, the contaminated products to the source of the outbreak. So we have been able to make contact with the National Department of Health.
Right.
Another hiccup has been that, as happens with government departments, what was previously the National Departments of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries has now been split into 2 separate departments. So there is a bit of confusion about who inherited that data,
right,
which we haven't found resolution of as yet.
Let's situate this then in the larger context of the pursuit of justice for some people who have already died, some of them waiting for some kind of justice and some outcome. Others whose personal circumstances were absolutely hammered by the consequences of listeriosis, and presumably those have not got any better. Is this taking you significant steps in the direction of some kind of final and just outcome, or is that on a distant horizon still?
We believe that, this windfall in terms of the underlying evidence required to proceed the case has immensely expedited the resolution of the matter. I know that you made reference to the Citizen article, which speaks about the settlement offer made during the course of 2025. The problem with that settlement offer is that it only pertained to a small number of the class grouping who had a specific band of evidence, genome testing that was done by the NICD. But our argument is that the NICD didn't intend for that evidence to be, the absolute doorstop on who is a class member. The NICD never anticipated litigation. They were scientists doing their job. They merely undertook to process as many genetic samples as was required to scientifically satisfy themselves that they had identified the source of the outbreak. So it's completely unfair to say that only people who happen to have that evidence meet within the band required for settlement. It's better to say that that band of evidence demonstrates the likelihood that all class members fell ill due to the contaminated product emanating from the Tiger Brands facilities.
And obviously what you're gleaning from the documentation you are lifting out of boxes and working through is going to substantially support that argument, is it?
Yes, it does.
Thank you so much, Amy Tuchten, Associate Designate at Richard Spoor Incorporated, the law firm that's been pursuing this for many, many, many years now. And I just think it's a really important story in some ways. It's analogous to the Senzo Mayiwa murder trial. I know they're very, very, very different things, but, there will be some people who will say, goodness me, is this still going on? And I think that's a valid response, but it's crucial that we do update you as things move. And thanks to Jared at the Citizen drawing attention to that when I was going across their always very interesting website, 702 Drive.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
The Mineral Resources Department has announced a mixed bag of pricing in fuel for the month of August. From Wednesday, the price of both 93 and 95 octane petrol will fall by 52 cents a litre. Diesel will increase by between R1.23 and R1.38 a litre.
The Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources says the petrol price cut was driven by lower international petrol prices and a drop in Brent crude oil, which fell from an average of $86.50 to just over $82 a barrel during the review period. The department says international diesel prices remained under pressure because of supply shortages linked to the Russia-Ukraine war.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
Amy Jefter's satirical play A Good House comes to the Market Theatre. Set in a middle-class gated community somewhere in Joburg, a shack appears on a vacant plot. Watch as the neighborhood's only black couple navigate the true cost of fitting in, while their white neighbors reveal their own assumptions about the shack's unseen occupants. Don't miss this biting new South African comedy at the Market Theatre this August. Book now at markettheatre.co.za.
So the other day I get this call from an insurance company. The lady asked me if I'm comfortable with my excess. I said, excess? Well, according to my therapist, I'm apparently a little too comfortable. But sometimes you just need to make sure. You know what I mean? She just put down the phone. I don't get it.
Don't get that insurance. Get Pineapple. It's easy to get and online. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurance authorized FSP. T's and C's apply.
You hear that? That's the sound of business execution finally visible. No more chasing people and reports. No more disconnected systems. No more guessing if our business is performing or not. iStratGo connects strategy, people, performance, and day-to-day work into one clear software platform, so leaders can see what's working, what's not, and where to focus. Because when execution is visible, everything runs better. Book a demo on istratgo.com. istratgo.com.
This is EWN.
Johnson's head sunk deeper into a bucket of shame, and one of the defendants in the high-profile Matlala trial accused of peddling fiction. Good afternoon, I'm Nkosi Kwanamalinga Mnisi. IDAC Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Peter Serunye has told the Madlanga Commission that his former boss Andrea Johnson allegedly dismissed concerns about flaws in the case against crime intelligence head Dumsani Khumalo. Serunye is giving evidence about IDAC's handling of the 2025 arrests of Khumalo and Crime Intelligence Technical Support Services head Dineo Mukweli. They were arrested over allegations that Mukweli had been appointed to a position without the required qualifications. Alfara Mushwana has more.
IDAC Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Peter Serunye says the first irregularity he identified was the fact that a very junior prosecutor was assigned to lead the case against Crime Intelligence head Dumsani Khumalo. IDAC's case was based on the allegation that Khumalo had appointed Dineo Mukweli as head of Crime Intelligence Technical Support Services, despite her alleged lack of the required qualifications and experience. However, the Commission has heard that Mukweli, who holds at least 12 academic qualifications, was actually overqualified. Serunye says he raised these concerns with then IDAC head Andrea Johnson.
She told me straight in front of the two juniors, why are you making an issue about this? Go and work.
On the one hand, like you said, she's a good manager, but on the other, if you were raising concerns and questioning her decisions, she didn't take kindly.
But she didn't take kindly to that. And
Johnson will be given another opportunity to respond to the new allegations against her. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
A senior SAPS ballistics expert who was part of investigations into the murder of Vereeniging engineer Armand Swart has been suspended without pay for a month following an internal disciplinary hearing. Captain Lawrence Mahotwe from the SAPS Forensic Science Laboratory in Pretoria was partly cleared of misconduct allegations. However, the police hearing maintained the 54-year-old brought the SAPS into disrepute, resulting in the sanction that is, as Karinda Jagmahan reports.
Mahotwe was accused of failing to follow review procedures when compiling forensic reports of evidence found at both the Vereeniging murder scene and during the arrests of suspects in Bramley in 2024. The evidence, including an AK-47 rifle, was later linked to at least 20 other high-profile murders. Mahotwe's initial report comprised several errors and omissions, which prompted additional investigations, incurring further state expenditure. While he issued a corrected version of his report, he failed to stipulate specific dates as per SAPS policy. Meanwhile, Mahotwe is set to return to the Pretoria Magistrates Court on the 20th of August, where he is charged with defeating the ends of justice. Karinda Jagmahan, Eyewitness News.
We go now to the trial of alleged underworld figure Vusumuzi Kat Matlala, where a police officer has accused defendant number 1 Musa Kekana of not being truthful about the circumstances of his arrest. Dumele Tsotetsi is the second senior police officer to reject Kekana's version of events during the trial within a trial in the Johannesburg High Court. The proceedings are to determine the admissibility of evidence that was obtained without a warrant. Kekana, Matlala and 3 others face a combined 25 charges, including attempted murder. Dimakaza Leshoro reports.
Lieutenant Colonel Dumela Tsotetsi disputed Kekana's claims that he remained handcuffed behind his back and was never allowed to sit up after complaining about his health, and that police failed to explain his constitutional rights. Tsotetsi testified that Kekana told officers he had recently been hospitalized and was coughing at the time, prompting police to move his handcuffs from behind his back to the front and allow him to sit upright. Tsotetsi is speaking through an interpreter.
Accused number 1 is not telling the truth, because after he complained of being uncomfortable, I'm the one who instructed that they should uncuff him from his behind and cuff him from his front.
The colonel also denied Kekana's evidence that his constitutional rights were never explained, testifying he was informed both in Sepedi and English before he was arrested for murder. His evidence closely mirrors Sokhobela's version that police acted lawfully during the arrest. Dimakatso Leshoro, Eyewitness News, Johannesburg High Court.
Arguments against the Expropriation Act continued in the Western Cape High Court today. Legal teams for AfriForum, the Democratic Alliance and two other organizations are presenting arguments this week opposing the act. AfriForum today told the court that one of the most dangerous aspects of the Expropriation Act is that it could allow land to be expropriated without compensation. Carlo Peterson has been following those proceedings.
AfriForum's lawyer Henk Wenger today argued that the phrase including but not limited to in the Expropriation Act creates an unlimited category of situations where the state could decide no compensation is payable when expropriating land. Wenger told the court the wording gives authorities excessively broad discretion, creates legal uncertainty for property owners, and is unconstitutionally vague. Speaking outside court, AfriForum CEO Kali Kriel said AfriForum is asking the court to declare the provision unconstitutional and remove it from the act.
We know what the government intends and the ANC intends. We don't have to speculate. So they want to take land without paying for it on dubious grounds that is in direct contradiction of the Constitution.
The Institute of Race Relations are also presenting arguments against the act in court today. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
And in the U.S., Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the U.S. and Iran could reach a deal to open the Strait of Hormuz by tomorrow. He says the deal would allow commercial ships to move freely through the strait, adding that this would stabilize energy prices. AFP is reporting, however, that Iran's foreign ministry has denied that negotiations with Washington, are taking place. U.S. crude oil futures fell about 4% to trade below $77 per barrel after the secretary's remarks. Bessent says he expects prices will fall further when the strait opens. Gold is trading at $4,779, that is 86 cents an ounce. The rand's at 16.40 to the dollar, 22.05 to the pound, 18.89 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $83.77 a barrel.
Bumper-to-bumper traffic heading through the Joburg CBD. That's traveling towards Boysons, M1 southbound from Killarney Bend to the Crown Interchange. Bedford View expects some delays. N3 north approaching the Gilulis Interchange due to roadworks, and in Proteas Lane traffic remains sluggish. N12 westbound from the R554 Abu Bakr Drive to the R558.
In your sport, Banyana in need of help from others in their bid for a WAFCON quarter-final place. All Blacks hooker George Bow ruled out of South Africa tour as Bradley Slater is called up. And Pakistan appoint Michael Smith as their batting coach.
A fine Wednesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Johannesburg drops to an overnight low of 3 degrees, peaking at 23. Pretoria 5 and 24, and Vereeniging 5 and 23. The top story in EWN this hour. IDAC Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Peter Serunye has told the Madlanga Commission that his former boss, Sandra Johnson, allegedly dismissed concerns about flaws in the case against crime intelligence head, that's Dumsani Khumalo.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
on 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7:02 Drive. How's your Tuesday been? Good to have you with us on the show. It's 8 minutes past 4. Interesting stuff coming up throughout the next hour. In fact, in the first half hour, we're going to be looking at a couple of things that I'm very keen to hear more about. First of all, we're seeing a couple of really elite schools rugby stars in South Africa. Two now in the space of a month who have copped drugs bans. They've tested positive for banned substances. It's a worrying thing. Obviously, you want to see young people thrive and flourish and reach for their dreams, which surely must be to play for the Stormers, play for the Bulls, and eventually play for the Springboks. But is this something that's all too prevalent in high school sports and rugby in particular? Or are these outliers and are they getting caught? It's complicated, I'm sure, but we have the right person to explain it. CEO of Drug Free Sport, Khalid Galant, is my guest to talk about that at 20 past 4. Eskom putting up good numbers on every single level, but how should we understand those numbers? Clearly, it seems to me, the power utility is being better run, but is that the only factor? And might there be a couple of pitfalls and, dare I say, potholes on the road ahead. We'll put those questions and some more to energy expert Chris Yelland. He joins me in a few moments' time. At the end of the hour at around 10 to 5, our Portfolio Committee on Sport, Arts and Culture has been hearing a briefing from the Minister responsible for those areas, Gayton McKenzie. This in regard to department spending 31 million rand on a number of people attending the 2026 FIFA World Cup. After 5, we have a huge number of parties have registered to compete for the elections, 620 in all. Does that make for more democracy, more choice, or is there something a little hollow in that? Is that, in fact, a dilution, which suggests the alternatives might be fewer than they first appear? Wayne Sussman, elections analyst, is my guest for that. That's coming up at 12 minutes past 5. We asked you earlier about do's and don'ts when you're on public transport. This is what some of you had to say.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
This is Cyril Tutsuman. John, there's nothing that irritates me more than somebody who's sitting next to you, talking on the phone so loud that you can literally hear what they are talking about, their private things. I mean, geez, it's really, it's disturbing. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Hi, 702. Have you ever I haven't seen one for a while, but the best taxi sign ever was the one, or there's two, but the one where it says on the window, it says, hello ladies, I love your perm, but mind my windows. And the other one was, it showed two large-sized ladies in front with the driver like squashed into a corner, and basically said that it's a no-go gate. You guys can get it.
Yeah, if people pay their money, they sit as comfortably as they like. Of course, the other thing is the spreading out on airline seats. I mean, we had a conversation about this before. Who owns the armrest? According to this article I've been quoting from, the person in the middle seat in an airplane gets both armrests. Really? Okay. I'm still going to stay on the aisle because the aisle's my spot. But let us know. Please call us 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. It's 12 minutes past 4. Speaking of travel and transport, let's bring you traffic.
EWN Traffic.
And this EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS the word out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabo Charlie, Joburg CBD is giving us problems. Whereabouts exactly?
Yeah, as you drive through or under the double-decker section, we had an accident earlier on, but it has been cleared, but the damage has already been done. There's bumper traffic heading towards Boysons. That's the M1 southbound between Killarney Benz and the Crown Interchange. While in Bryanston, accident scene, N1 southbound before Winnie Mandela Drive, slowing down traffic. In Midrand, heading towards Centurion, expect some delays. N1 northbound approaching Ellendale Road. Bedford View, also some delays on the N3 northbound approaching Kiluli's Interchange due to roadworks. Edenvale, this time driving into Bedford View, slow-moving traffic on the R24 westbound from Edenvale Road to the Kiluli's Interchange. Linksfield, heading towards Germiston, traffic congested. N3 southbound between Modderfontein Road and the Kiluli's Interchange, Protea Glen, traffic remains sluggish on the N12 westbound from the R554 Abu Bakr Drive all the way to the R558. For the latest traffic updates, you can also follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance Pointsmen can't help you pick the perfect Women's Day gift for your partner, but they can get the traffic flowing smoothly so you arrive on time for date night. The Outsurance Pointsmen are real heroes in green and purple, easing traffic congestion, making our lives easier. They've been doing it for almost 21 years. Just another way you always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, show them some love online using #PointsmenLove. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Right, 4:15. Let's talk about this. Some very interesting numbers captured again in the Citizen, I have to say. Mariska Kutze is the journalist who put out the story that caught my eye. Very, very interesting numbers from Eskom. 441 consecutive days without load shedding. That is the utility's best performance in a decade. They've cut diesel use dramatically. So clearly a lot of things are going right. Now, in questioning exactly what is going right and whether there are still some issues to solve, this is not, certainly from my point of view at all, in any way saying that what's been done well at Eskom is in any way in doubt. But there's a multiplicity of factors, it would seem, that play into an improved performance by the country's energy sector as a whole. And we thought we'd explore those with Chris Yelland, energy expert. Mr. Yelland, welcome and thanks very much for your time. The numbers are impressive. Surely a lot of credit needs to be given for improvements made. What are those improvements, if you believe there have been improvements?
They certainly have, and I don't want to underplay the improved Eskom performance. We've had this 100-something days of no load shedding, and it's extremely welcome, and it has saved a lot of expenses for the economy. And we're getting back to where we should have always been.
Yes.
But I don't want to rain on Eskom's parade either, but I get a lot of press releases from Eskom, and they always, claim full credit, for this improved performance. Well, let's give it to them. But what they never say in their press releases, and I do find it rather chillish, is the contribution that had been made by various other parties to ending load shedding, and not least of which, is the very high price increases that the country has to pay for Eskom's electricity, which has resulted in a dramatic destruction of demand, electricity demand by customers of electricity, whether they are residential, commercial, industrial, manufacturing, mining, agricultural. Everybody is using as little electricity as possible because of the extremely high price increases, several times the inflation rate for the last 10 or 15 years. And that has resulted in massive destruction of demand. I'm talking about the closure of the smelting industry, the ferromanganese, the ferrochrome industry, the iron and steel. ArcelorMittal and Newcastle have shut down. The manganese smelting industry and the ferrochrome are in dire straits, the majority of which has shut down. So these have contributed significantly to reducing demand, reducing load shedding, and giving Eskom sufficient space to do the necessary maintenance, which it would otherwise not have been able to do. And there are many other factors which I can go into as well.
Yeah. While you were talking, Chris Yelland, something occurred to me. We had a very polarized conversation during the load shedding years, which was all about Eskom and its failures, and for good reason. I'm just wondering, with a little bit of space, and I'm responding to what you spoke about, giving credit to other forces and factors, and that would include many people's investment, for example, in renewables, be it domestic or on a larger scale. If we were to reframe the conversation and talk about the national energy effort, and I don't know if I'm sounding a little pie in the sky here, but I'll take off the rose-tinted glasses in a moment. But wouldn't that allow us to have a more fruitful conversation where we could aggregate all the things that, yes, Eskom is doing, but that we as a country are doing, and allow us to be very much more precise in what we prioritize and what we conclude to be effective?
I agree entirely with what you're saying. One really does have to understand the issues in order to do better next time round. And I'll give you an example. The massive price increases that have been seen over the last decade to 15 years have made the business case for alternative energy sources better and better. And people are using as little Eskom electricity as possible because it is extremely expensive. So, during the load shedding years, SARS and government and Eskom actively encouraged and even incentivized customers to put in renewable energy. You may remember the tax breaks that Eskom paid for solar PV. That was SARS, encouragement. And the private sector responded massively at their own cost, at huge cost, to investing in alternative energy resources, and have added something like, in total about 14,000 megawatts of renewable energy in South Africa, half of which comes from rooftop solar PV and what we call behind-the-meter installations. The other half comes from the public procurement process, the Renewable Energy IPP program. And this has all been done, not at the cost of Eskom, and not at the cost of the fiscus, but by customers themselves. And this has contributed to relieving the burden that Eskom was unable to meet. And I think credit needs to be given to that. And I'm not saying that Eskom are not doing good work. They are. Their performance has improved, but they have been given the space to do these improvements by the private sector coming to the table, installing alternative energy driven by cost, driven by load shedding, security of supply. And by the way, I want to just give credit to National Treasury and the taxpayers of South Africa, because the taxpayers came to the table with several 100 billion rands of bailouts for Eskom to help Eskom repay its exorbitant debt. And this has given Eskom the liquidity, to invest properly in maintenance, buy the necessary spares, contract with contractors from original equipment manufacturers to do the job properly, and they've had the space to do so because demand has reduced. They don't have to go into load shedding in order to have a generator offline to do maintenance. There is actually now something like 7,000 megawatts, actually about 6,800 megawatts of coal-fired power in cold reserve at the moment that is being unused simply because of the demand destruction and the fact that alternative energy has come to the table. And so Eskom is able to do proper maintenance with the necessary financial resources to do this maintenance, and they've got these units in cold reserve that they can work on, and this all results in a far better performance. All I'm saying is, let's give credit where credit is due all around, and not just this PR that comes out of Eskom time and time again, claiming full credit, pat on their own back for the work they've done to be where they should have always been in the first place.
Thank you so much. Chris Yelland, energy expert. Give us a call on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. 23 minutes past 4.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Well, most of the news about South African rugby is just about always good, but a couple of troubling stories coming out in regard to schools rugby. A piece in News 24 reports that a former South African schools under-18 prop, Dion Boertes, has received a 4-year ban for a positive doping test. Now, this follows on a similar sanction given to another very, very promising young player, and questions are being asked as to whether or not this is the tip of the iceberg or whether these are outliers and the problem actually isn't significant. The other person, by the way, the South Africa under-20 prop, Kai Pratt, he also tested positive for a banned substance, waiting on the testing of what's called the B sample. So how do we understand this? What is the problem? How widespread is it? Let's welcome the CEO of Drug Free Sport, Khalid Galant. Mr. Galant, welcome, and thanks very much for giving us your time on 702 Drive. Obviously, this is making the news. Is it a much larger problem than just these two cases?
Good afternoon, John, and good afternoon to your listeners. It has been an issue over the last couple of years, or last 16 years. I won't call it an outlier in terms of these positive tests, but one also has to look at the context of testing. and specifically in a sport like rugby, where in Craven Week with the Dion Botha's case, 131 tests were done. There's probably about 800 to 1,000 boys that play, so it's about anywhere between 15-20% of the players are tested, and one positive came out of last year's Craven Week. So it's not an outlier, because over the years we've seen every year in Craven Week, there's always a number of positive. Between 2010 and 2020, there was anywhere between 6 and 9 every year, but that has decreased post then, and it could be due to testing as a deterrent, or it also could be due to the education model that we use. However, we're looking at, we're reviewing everything. We don't think what we're delivering is perfect, because these positive tests shouldn't be happening at schoolboy level.
I want to ask you, I want to come to your education model in a moment, because I'm really interested in that. But when, so this young man, Dion Botha, and, he's been caught doing something wrong, but a 4-year ban is a substantial thing for an 18-year-old. Do you have anything like plea bargaining in the process, not necessarily run by yourselves, where if somebody is willing to lay bare their source of supply for the kind of drugs that they're taking, then there's something in mitigation of sentence? Or am I confusing criminal courts with trying to rid sport of drugs?
No, you're not confusing it. And there's in the anti-doping code, there are different sections on mitigation and how a sanction of 4 years could be reduced. Just so you know, first off, if it's a minor under 18 years, that's already a mitigating circumstance.
Okay.
And what we refer to as a protected athlete will already be treated through a different lens than an adult athlete. Yes, an athlete, and there have been athletes that sanction has been reduced when they've given us information about the suppliers, because we want to go after the supplier and not only punish the end user. However, in a large majority, and here I'm referring to young players, rugby players, in a large majority of the cases, why they haven't really talked to us, because the adults around them are implicated in the supply.
Oh my goodness.
And most often it's parents or coaches or teachers, and so they're not really going to confess to us who the supplier was and who injected them with the steroids.
And would it be fair to say that a coach involved in the doping of a young rugby player should get nothing less than a lifetime ban from the sport? I mean, I don't know if you could turn it into a criminal matter as well.
There is space for a criminal matter, which is out of our jurisdiction.
Right.
But in terms of sport, an athlete or a coach can get a lifetime ban when there are aggravated circumstances.
Right.
If there's more than one athlete, and so it is possible, and we have prosecuted coaches where they have been implicated, and we've had solid evidence. It becomes a bit more tricky when it's parents or teachers. Where there's a professional body, like with doctors or teachers, we will go, and we have gone to the professional bodies to sanction doctors or teachers for such behavior.
Thank you so much to Khalid Galant. He's the CEO of Drug Free Sport in South Africa. And a much longer conversation. I need to think of a way to get him back, because there's so much more to talk about. But if you're involved with school sports, I mean, drugs, kids, they are kids, young men, I suppose. It seems to be a male thing, not a female thing. But young learners being introduced to and perhaps even induced to take drugs to enhance their sporting performance. Is it something you've encountered? Is it something that you've heard people talk about? How common is it? And what do we do about it, most crucially? Give me a call on that. 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. 29 minutes past 4.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, a very good afternoon to you. One of those days, I mean, I didn't see a number that didn't look good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, partly because Brent crude is a bit lower, but platinum prices, they're up nearly 6%, John, and that's had a big impact on the JSE All Share. thrown better than expected Nedbank prices results, and things are looking quite good. The JSE All Share up 1.3%, 114,187 points. Financials up 1.2%. Industrials up 0.18%, and resources up 3.19%, largely because of that platinum price. So, for example, we see Valterra, they're up the most, up 8%. Bear in mind their results last week still hanging around, I suppose. The Sibanye and Implats up very strongly. Sibanye up nearly 7%, Implats up nearly 6%, Northam up nearly 5% on the day, and Anglo as a whole up 4.39%. Nedbank up 5.75%, John. So what happened was their results surprised on the upside. Their headline earnings per share were up just 1.1%, but they'd actually expected a slight decline. Remember, they sold that stake in EcoBank. I'll have to work it out. And so as a result, you'd have thought they'd go down slightly. Instead, they went up slightly. It's making more money from lending it from home loans, keeping its costs contained, also doing quite nicely with smaller businesses. And so that's had a little bit of an impact on their share price today. The JSE's been up as well. So high levels of trading activity having a big impact on the JSE's bottom line. The JSE reporting its headline earnings per share up 19%. Higher volumes mean more fees in their business. They say they want to use the cash to fund some strategic investments in the future. What does that mean? We'll ask the CEO, Valdine Reddy, on the Money Show this evening. The car technology company Karoo down 4.25%. The Foschini Group down again nearly 3%. Sasol down 2.5% on lower oil prices. And then Telkom after yesterday's results down 2.48%, while We Buy Cars and Canal Plus are down by nearly 2.5% as well. And Lightstone Properties and Vukile both down by over 1.5%. The Premier Group also down 1.65%. In the US, lots of optimism around with AI. There have been a couple of results which have partly the reason for that. Caterpillar and Palantir, they seem to be, those are forecasts that came out from them, seem to be suggesting that there will be strong AI-driven demand. And then the usual kind of hope, forlorn as it is sometimes, for peace in the Middle East. The Dow Jones is up 1.16%. The Nasdaq is up 1.5%. The S&P 500 is up 0.9% on the day so far. The gold price, $4,086.84. Platinum, $1,731.20. Brent crude, $80.04 a barrel. So quite a big decline, $10 since last week. And the rand to the dollar, 16.38 to the euro, 18.88 to the British pound, 22.03. Stephen Crotus, EWN Business.
Right, let's go to the news desk now, where Nkosikona Malinga Mnisi has some important news coming out of the Gauteng High Court. What's up? Good afternoon.
Yes, that's right, John. Good afternoon. We begin with news just in. The Gauteng High Court has declared the suspension of Public Investment Corporation CEO Patrick Dlamini unlawful, ruling that the PIC board acted outside its powers when it placed him on precautionary suspension. The judgment marks a dramatic twist in the governance crisis at Africa's largest asset manager. Judge Mandla Mbonge found that the PIC board failed to follow both the Public Investment Corporation Act and its own delegations of authority before suspending Dlamini on the 13th of July. Transport Minister Barbara Creecy has announced two separate forensic investigations into dubious security contracts at the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, PRASA. Creecy says the two probes follow a weekend Sunday Times report on how a security company led by ANC veteran Paul Langa scored R1 billion in contracts without going through tender processes. Creecy was briefing the Select Committee on Public Infrastructure about the status of PRASA investigations into alleged criminal infiltration and irregularities in the Cape Town Central Line. Babalundenze reports.
Minister Barbara Creecy says reports of poor governance and irregular procurement at rail agency PRASA is a big concern for her and the department. She says they had to act following the latest media reports pertaining to security contracts awarded to Rishebile Aviation and Protection Services and how tender processes were bypassed.
Following these allegations, I have written yesterday to the chairperson of the Board of Control, and I have asked that the board immediately appoint an independent forensic investigation company.
Creecy says a second forensic investigation will look into other security contracts across the PRASA group.
And I've asked that the Board of Control should appoint a separate forensic company to do a forensic due diligence on all other active security contracts.
Creasy says they want to satisfy themselves as the department that they have proper legal contracts with service providers. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News.
The Gauteng Education Department has acknowledged the severity of the crime crisis at Badirile Secondary School in Kutsong. The department says government will expand police-led search and seizure operations to other schools following a spate of serious violent crimes, including murder and assault. Department officials formed part of a joint law enforcement operation at the school today, where authorities discovered several dangerous weapons and warned transgressors of serious consequences for their actions. The operation targets gangsterism, dangerous weapons, substance abuse, and other criminal activity in schools. Gauteng Education MEC Lebogang Maile says this is just one aspect of their efforts to create safer learning environments across Gauteng.
This is one of the schools that is very notorious. There are kids here who threaten teachers that they will call zamazamas and criminals to murder the educators. We've got kids here who are gangsters. Some of them, I've just checked their books. There is nothing. They are not coming to school. They are not learners.
A fine Wednesday in store for Gauteng. Tomorrow, temperatures to peak at between 23 and 24 degrees.
Well, at this stage, if you're traveling through Groenkloof, Pretoria, traffic heavily backed up on Nelson Mandela Drive and George Storer. That's approaching the Fountain Circle. Bryanston heading towards Fourways. Accident scene N1 South before Winnie Mandela Drive, slowing down traffic. And in the Joburg CBD, we still have bumper-to-bumper traffic. M1 South, this is from Killarney Bends to the Crown Interchange.
It's the breaking news story this half hour. The Gauteng High Court has declared the suspension of Public Investment Corporation CEO Patrick Dlamini unlawful, ruling that the PIC board acted outside its powers when it placed him on precautionary suspension.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
The most people in this country who are subjected to violence and assault are women and children. That's just the reality. So let's not try equate the two and say it's at the same level. It's not. The statistics don't demonstrate that. And yes, are there men out there who are probably in prison for being wrongfully accused? Absolutely. Are there men in our society whose careers have been ruined because an ex was upset that the relationship is ending? Absolutely. But do you know how many people are scared to even have this conversation? They are. They are scared because they're scared of being seen as you're a misogynist. I know that there are people that are going to come after me for even opening up this chat. And you know the sad thing? The people who falsely accuse men, they ruin it for other women who genuinely get assaulted.
Clements Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
This Sunday, Josie My Josie is doing it again with Main Street Sundays. They're taking over Marshalltown and flipping the script on how Josie moves. One whole street right in the heart of the city, closed off to cars, just people, vibes, and that Main Street magic. Walked with us at the 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk. Come back and relive it. Missed it and caught FOMO? Well, this is your second chance. 702 Soulful Sunday with Kenny and Pushaza are broadcasting live from Main Street Sundays. So join us on Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Head to josiemyjosie.com for the details and grab your free tickets. And come and see what happens when the streets belong to the people. Make Main Street your playground. Babize bonke.
Life doesn't stay the same. It grows. One moment becomes another, one plan becomes five, and before you know it, the life you've been building is all around you. With its refined new grille, elevated 7-seat design, and seamless wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, the new Jetour X70 Plus is designed for every chapter ahead. From 444-900, book a test drive today. The new Jetour X70 Plus, life expanded.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
John. John and the team, you're killing me there. About eating in the taxi. One taxi driver one day said, hey, when ozama ukuvula restaurant lapho. Vele uyivale le restaurant lapho.
Hi, John. Tobile from Snake Park. I got so annoyed. I don't know what people with signers are doing. Like this thing of I get so annoyed. I don't know what it's called or what.
Good afternoon, John. Many years ago, in a taxi, I caught a nap, and now the taxi driver was so livid. He wanted to take me off his taxi somewhere in Midrand. I had to beg him. So, but at the time, I didn't understand what the reason was. I learned recently, even on 702, that the reason that you are not supposed to sleep on a taxi is because you are going to miss your next stop where you have to get off. Kabalan, Pretoria.
On waking people up in the public transport, I think it should be the years, right? I once fell asleep in a train, metro rail from Pretoria Showgrounds. I was coming from writing an exam at the Unisa Exam Center, and on my way back home in the train, I fell asleep, and the train stopped at Pretoria North to do an oil change. So oil changes means all people must move from one train to the other. People just left me sleeping there. When I got up, the train was going back to where the trains park. I don't know, is it a barracks or what? Yeah, they just left me sleeping there. So I think you should wake people up.
Yes, indeed. I know in America they call those the shifting yards. And there's a song. I'll find out the singer of it. But there's a song which is quite creepy called Nighttime in the Shifting Yards. I'll find out who it's by. But yes, you want people to wake you up before the shunters get involved and the trains go home to sleep, because you definitely don't want to be there overnight. Or worse, actually, you definitely don't want to wake up there and then try and find your way home. 702 Drive, it's good to have you with us on the show. It's 19 minutes to 5. It is a huge night for Banyana at WAFCON tonight. Kickoff is at 9 p.m. Let's look ahead to the game and all the other big stories with Tola Kele Mganga.
EWN Sport.
It is the worst, Tola Kele, because you can do everything perfectly, but if Cote d'Ivoire don't do what you hope they'll do, well, it's all in vain. Tell us what's set the game up for us. That's what I'm asking you to do.
No problem, John. It's a win and hope for Banyana at WAFCON tonight, as they must beat Burkina Faso in their final Group B game and hope that Ivory Coast are victorious in their showdown against Tanzania. South Africa are yet to win at this year's edition and have conceded 4 times while scoring 3 goals as their attempts to advance to the quarterfinals hit a snag. Despite their uncharacteristic showing so far, Andile Dlamini is confident they can make South Africa proud.
Burkina Faso not an easy team. They have 3 points and we've seen how they play, but we also know our capabilities. We know what we are capable of. We haven't had it the way we wanted. Most probably in this last one we'll do our best to make our country proud.
Babista has been appointed head coach of RS Berkane following a historic World Cup campaign with Cape Verde. The 56-year-old led the tournament debutants into the last 32 while he signed a 2-year deal with the Moroccan team. Babista replaces Mowan Chabani at Berkane. That's after the latter was appointed Tunisia national team head coach. Switching to rugby, where the Springbok team to play Argentina on Saturday will be named tonight as Rassie Erasmus welcomes back a number of experienced players. Sia Kolisi, Eben Etzebeth and Lot Diaga are all in contention to play their first test match of the year, having missed the July games through injury. And Bok assistant coach Dion Davids has discussed the importance of carefully managing their game time ahead of the clashes against the All Blacks.
Yeah, obviously we take an account in terms of when last did they play a game. We will let us lead in terms of the intensity and how the game gets played. Obviously we do have specific plans in terms of how we want to manage them throughout the next couple of games. Match fitness is a big issue. We're not worried about that. We believe that they are ready. They've worked very hard to get themselves back onto the field.
And in tennis, Alexander Ella has become the first Filipino to win a WTA singles title after beating Jessica Pegula 4-6, 6-4 and 6-love in the delayed Washington Open final. Serena and Venus Williams have received a wildcard entry into the doubles draw at the 2026 Cincinnati Open, as it marks their first appearance together since the 2022 US Open. Meanwhile, former champion Emma Raducanu will miss the US Open. That's because of the stress fracture in her leg that also forced her to pull out of Wimbledon. Tola Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Coming up now for 16 minutes to 5. If you're out on the roads, well, we have some updates for you. This EWN traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. You could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabo Charlie Groenkloof.
Yeah, that is in the Pretoria area. Traffic heavily backed up. This is on Nelson Mandela Drive as well as George Stora approaching the Fountain Circle in Mainland. Heading towards Centurion. Expect delays N1 South between Atterbury and Rigel Avenue. While in Protea Glen, Soweto, there's now more than a 30-minute delay on the R559 between the R558 and George Sashes. This is due to faulty traffic lights at Wild Chestnut. In Tembisa, accident scene R21 southbound. Before the R25 Papsfontein off-ramp causing heavy delays in the Joburg CBD. Peak hour traffic on the M1 southbound between Killarney Bends and the Crown Interchange. Bedford View also expect some delays. N3 North. This is approaching the Kilulis Interchange due to roadworks in Edenvale heading into Bedford View. Slow-moving traffic on the R24 westbound from Edenvale Road to the Kilulis Interchange. And finally, in Alex, there's a bumper-to-bumper traffic N3 South from Marlborough Drive all the way to Van Buren. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Things people stress about in traffic. Number 49. What's that random warning light that keeps popping up on my car's dashboard? Oh, the mystery. Well, with the Outsurance Pointsman on your route, at least the traffic is one less thing to stress about. The Outsurance Pointsmen have been easing traffic congestion so we all get to where we need to be quickly and safely for the past 20 years. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In partnership with 702, Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Still to come on 702 Drive. After 5 o'clock, we're going to be talking to elections analyst Wayne Sussman. Political parties registered for the local government elections doesn't mean they'll all make their way onto the ballot paper, but this is how many have indicated an interest to contest and compete. 620. That's a lot. Fortunately, because it's local government elections, they're not all competing on what would presumably be an incredibly long ballot. I'm not sure how you would make sure that nobody else in the voting station actually sees, because your paper would be running all the way to the entrance. But what does this mean for our democracy? Does this reflect a flowering of different political opinions and opportunities? Or is it something a little bit more mundane, that there's a real fragmenting of politics? In other words, is this good for democracy or maybe not? Or is it somewhere in between, which is, I suspect, where you'll probably find me. But we'll talk to Wayne Sussman at about 10 past 5. And then the other thing we're going to be doing in that half hour is look at the olive oil industry in South Africa. Now, why are we doing that? Interesting stories coming out of the Northern Hemisphere, and particularly the countries of Southern Europe, that the olive crops have been massively hammered by the extreme heat in the area and perhaps some other weather circumstances. That means less olive oil. That means higher prices for olive oil and maybe an opportunity for South African producers. Does that exist? We'll talk to Wendy Peterson, CEO of the SA Olive Association. That's coming up at about 20 minutes past 5. It's 12 minutes to 5.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Well, you get all kinds of whistleblowers. You get some who are regarded as heroes because they genuinely put themselves at substantial personal risk and they look to make a huge difference in matters of importance beyond their own lives. And then you get other whistleblowers about whom people may feel a little bit more ambivalent. In the news at the moment is Angelo Agrizzi. He was a whistleblower at Bosasa, having been part of Bosasa's corrupt conduct, which was laid bare at the Zondo Commission. He was in the courts engaging. They were first looking to confiscate 1.8 billion rand from him in value and presumably to an extent in cash. And then they scaled that down to what is still a large amount of money, but a much smaller sum of 53 million, which could rise to 62, which got me thinking about whistleblowers, because it's one thing to look at and admire whistleblowers who do things in the public interest away from a place where you might work or have interest or influence. But are whistleblowers always admired, or is there some residual thing in our society that may go back to school where we think of, that person snitched, that person is a tattletale was the phrase that we used then. Of course, certainly in the years of struggle against apartheid, the people who were regarded as impimpis, who were informers, and so on. I mean, do we have general regard for whistleblowers, even if we don't join them in making a courageous stand? Do you have a thoughts on that, Tolakele? I mean, if there's somebody here who decides that, they're going to blow the whistle on something, I mean, do you say, good for you, I will watch you from a distance and applaud, or tell me?
I think for me, it is I will watch you from a distance and applaud, because it takes a lot to stand up.
Yes.
And especially when a lot of times when an industry or an environment is so used to operating in a certain way, and everybody knows that even though it's wrong, that's just how the way it operates.
Yes.
To decide to be the lone voice and say, actually, yes, this is how things are done, but it doesn't mean it's correct. So to take that decision and say, I'm going to fight against the whole system, it has to be applauded, because you also don't know what the ramifications are. In the short term, it's just related to that company, but you don't know how word of mouth spreads to other businesses and other areas of life, where people are all of a sudden going, well, like I'm sure you've had it, John, when you're a journalist, where people will say to you, oh, don't tell John like this thing about what's happening in your life. You'll talk about it in the news. So it's similar to a whistleblower, where when people do find out that they've made that decision, all of a sudden people are going, oh, we can't trust you.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, and it doesn't even have to be around whistleblowing. I remember in one of my very early media jobs, I was filling out my expense claim, and another colleague walked past and said, is that it? And I said, yes. And they said, no, you're going to make us all look bad. Come, let's do this properly here. They're saying, no, you didn't you? So, I mean, it's very interesting that culture set in, and somebody who decides, well, I think I'm going to be, ethics with a capital E on my T-shirt. Not everybody appreciates it. So I'd love to know, in the place where you work, in the environments where you run your life, it could be a neighborhood issue, are whistleblowers appreciated? Are people who want to walk the straight and narrow given a high regard? Or do people say, well, actually, you know what? We want you to toe the line, just not that line. Karabo Charlie, what's your thought?
Well, it's pretty simple. If I see somebody doing wrong and I report them, that's definitely whistle blowing. But if I'm in the wrong and you tell, you're a snitch, man. And and you know what snitches get.
Yeah, okay. So it depends if you're wearing the sheriff's badge or not.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll bring in a white hat for you. No, a white horse. What is it? White hat, white horse, I forget. Anyway, a white horse. Let's see if we can rustle one up. Give us your thoughts, maybe your direct experience where you look to change something. And the complicating thing is, if it's a company in some trouble and you've noticed wastage that is unnecessary and fixable, but which some people may actually benefit from, and it could be either wasting of resources or the wasting of time. And, there's a push on productivity, and some people are taking, very, very long lunches, and you push in the other direction. That can also make you unpopular. Give us your thoughts. Give us your experiences. Share them, please, on 072 702 1702. 7 minutes to 5.
John Perlman
On 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Well, the portfolio committees in Parliament are generally very, very interesting places where government business and government accountability is front and centre and often discussed in great detail. I think it's very, very fair to say that the Portfolio Committee on Sport, Arts and Culture today is in the spotlight, and that's because the minister in that department, Gayton McKenzie, is coming in to talk about 31 million rand spent by the department for various reasons and things at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Large numbers of people, part of the delegation. The minister has offered all sorts of explanations in defense of the money spent. So what's happened so far? My understanding is we haven't got to Mexico yet. But Babalo Ndenze, our EWN reporter, is standing by to tell us what's happened so far and what is still to come. Babalo, a very good afternoon to you. Some distance still from Mexico City, as I understand it, but the minister has been busy. What's been going on? Good afternoon.
Yes, indeed, John. A bit of a delay to this, to this item on the agenda. There's been quite a lengthy briefing where the minister is also involved in about, the Cultural and Creative Industries Federation of South Africa, and it's about a forensic report into the misappropriation of funds in this organization. It represents, artists, singers, actors, etc. And they've been discussing these findings in this damning report that Minister McKenzie says it is. But there will be a discussion in a few minutes now. They're currently on a 20-minute comfort break. It's been quite a lengthy item for the first item of the agenda. So they will be starting at 5 p.m., John, this further discussion on this FIFA World Cup delegation, these 151 people that went on this, opposition MPs have called a junket in Mexico and the U.S. The minister is about now to, give his briefing to the committee and answer further questions from members. We expect it to run until in the early evening. But he will. What do we know at the moment, John? We know that it's 31 million rand that's in question. And members want to understand why exactly he had to spend so much money with such a large delegation for the FIFA World Cup. He's tried to give, explanations previously about the amounts, what they were used for, about 7 million, 6.7 million, funded a 2010 Legends program game. About 3.3 million was allocated for official hospitality in Atlanta and in Monterrey, Mexico. And the minister says these were like workspaces and were used for, working. He's also, spoken about some of the sponsorships, and we expect him to get questioned about the sponsorships and what the financial breakdown is on these sponsorships and how much of the bill did these sponsors foot. We do also expect him to, be asked questions about the specific role of these 151 people and what their financial implications or how much money was spent on each individual delegate. So we do expect the minister to take a lot of tough questions. We do know that he's tried to defend it previously. He says, that there was a return on the investment. So members will be questioning him about what exactly is that return on that investment, John. They want, details about the qualifications, in fact, of the 151 delegates. They want specific details, also about the artists and what they were doing in the U.S., as well as the discussions that Minister McKenzie says he had with his counterparts in those two countries, issues around tourism. We know Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille, was also there.
Right.
As part of a very small delegation. It was, I think, two people. It was her and another support staff member. But, the Gaten McKenzie one is 151 people. And the minister says he has nothing to hide, John, about this. There was nothing, untoward about this expenditure. But we don't expect these members of the committee to be satisfied with that response once they reconvene in a few minutes. But he does have people that have raised, or there are people rather in the committee that have raised concerns about the time allocation. Because this previous discussion went on for so long, they might need to have a bit more time to discuss this particular issue. So it looks like, there are issues around the time. It's almost, it's almost 5 p.m. now, and this matter was, this committee has been sitting since 9:30 this morning. A lengthy discussion with questions on the Creative Industries Forensic Report by Goboto Forensics. But now, once we do get to this item, we do expect, things to get quite heated. And we do expect the minister as well to continue his defense of that expenditure.
Thank you so much, Babalo Ndenze. I think it's going to be a fascinating session in that portfolio committee. Listen up. We'll give you updates as soon as we get them, and look out for updates as well from Babalo in all the news bulletins for the rest of this 702 day.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Mabota, 1 to 3 p.m.
There are people who feel, insurance is one of the things that they cut off first because it can feel like a grudge expenditure every month.
Yeah.
Can you remind us why it is important?
Benefits or group risk benefits, as well as your retirement savings, they're very important because they are there to actually protect you. They are there to support both the employer and the employee. And what I mean by that is we've seen when someone passes away, the first thing that the family will do is do what? They're going to go to the employer and say, employer, your employee has passed away. What benefits do you have?
Priscilla Shikwambana, Manager of Retirement Benefit Counseling at Momentum Corporate.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebogile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
Your business needs that new ultrasound machine, but do you have the cash to fund it? Before you compromise on the core items your business needs, have you looked at saving on your business insurance? Switch to Outsurance Business Insurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium for dentistries, general medical practices, physiotherapies, and all other businesses. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurance FSP. TCs and information online.
For over 120 years, Shell has been woven into the vibrant fabric of Mzansi, fueling your engines and your dreams, powering your journeys and your potential. We believe progress is measured in the opportunities we create, the smiles we inspire, and the lives we continue to touch. We are more than just energy. For the everyday difference in people's lives, you can always count on Shell.
This is EWN.
PIC Chief Executive suspension overturned and evidence at Matlala trial puts the version of two officers against each other. Good afternoon, I'm Nkosi Khonamalingamnisi. It's the developing story this afternoon. The Gauteng High Court has declared the suspension of Public Investment Corporation CEO Patrick Dlamini unlawful, ruling that the PIC board acted outside its powers when it placed him on precautionary suspension. The judgment marks a dramatic twist in the governance crisis at Africa's largest asset manager. Judge Mandla Mbongwe, found that the PIC board failed to follow both the Public Investment Corporation Act and its own delegations of authority before suspending Dlamini on the 13th of July. Anelita Fandese has the details.
The Gauteng High Court held that the board did not have the legal authority to act unilaterally and that the required ministerial approval process was not followed. The judgment states that only the finance minister, in consultation with cabinet, has the authority to appoint the PIC's chief executive, while any suspension under the PIC's delegation of authority must first be recommended by the Human Resources and Remuneration Committee. The court also rejected arguments that the PIC's whistleblower policy gave the board the power to suspend Dlamini, saying whistleblower protections guard against retaliation but do not create powers that override legislation or the corporation's governing framework. The court has now set aside Dlamini's suspension, dismissed attempts by intervening parties to join the proceedings, and ordered the respondents to pay the legal costs of the application. Anelita Fandese, Eyewitness News.
To the Johannesburg High Court now, where two police witnesses have given conflicting accounts of key evidence, or rather events, surrounding the arrest of accused number 1 Musa Kekana in the trial of alleged underworld figure Vusumuzi Matlala. Police officers Tumelo Tsotetsi and Phimisi Khubela differed on whether Toyota Fortuner was present where Kekana received medical treatment and the circumstances surrounding the arrival of paramedics. Kekana and 4 co-accused are facing a combined 25 charges, including attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder, as Timakato Leshoro reports.
Captain Sokhobela maintained no Toyota Fortuner was at the scene where Musa Kekana was arrested and denied that Kekana was transported in one. Zodeti, by contrast, testified that a paramedic arrived in a black unmarked Toyota Fortuner on 8th Road where Kekana was arrested. Kekana's lawyer, advocate Rian Khesen, confronted Zodeti about his evidence that Kekana was coughing at the scene of arrest and that his rights were read to him, but none of these details were included in his statement.
You see, Colonel, someone is lying. Someone is not telling the truth. Between yourself and Sekhubela.
The two officers also gave differing accounts of Kekana's medical treatment. Zodeti says paramedics treated him on 8th Road, while Sekhubela insisted Kekana was never taken to 8th Road after he was taken to his house following the arrest. Dimakadzo Leshoro, Eyewitness News, Johannesburg High Court.
Postbank says it's confident it has the capacity to replace every remaining SASSA Gold card before the August 31st deadline. Around 280,000 social grant beneficiaries nationwide still need to migrate to the new Postbank Black Card. Officials briefed the Western Cape Standing Committee on Social Development today, revealing that more than 43,000 of those beneficiaries are in the Western Cape. Postbank Chief Operating Officer Eureka Singh says they've deployed additional staff to high-demand areas.
Our previous round of replacement tells us that people generally show up in the last month, and we have done all we can from our side in terms of communication. I mean, Dr. Diako has gone into it in quite a lot of detail because it's really the only lever we have to encourage people to come forward aside from the deadline date. We certainly have the capacity on the ground and the capability to replace every single card. So yes, we're confident that where beneficiaries show up, we will be able to replace those cards by the end of the month.
And not a single rand was lost to corruption during the construction of Mpumalanga's new 1.6 billion rand King Nyabela Hospital, according to President Cyril Ramaphosa. The president says the project was completed on time within budget and now stands as a model for public infrastructure delivery. The new 220-bed hospital replaces the more than 100-year-old Middlebrook Hospital and will serve more than 240,000 people across the Nkangala district. Mongezi Gogo reports from Mpumalanga.
Construction of the hospital began in 2017 to replace the aging Middleburg Hospital, which had become too costly to maintain. The project also created more than 101,000 work opportunities during its construction. President Ramaphosa began the day with a walkabout of the facility before cutting the ribbon to officially open the hospital. He later addressed healthcare workers, community members and government delegates, describing the project as evidence that major public infrastructure can be delivered successfully.
Budgeted for 1.6 billion. Hospital was built on time and within budget, and I've been told that there was no corruption.
The Level 1 District Hospital features 3 state-of-the-art operating theatres, a 24-hour accident and emergency unit, high care services and a full range of clinical departments. Mongezi Gogo, Eyewitness News.
Gold is trading at $4,082.41 an ounce. The rand's at 16.38 to the dollar, 22.05 to the pound, and 18.90 that is to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $83.77 a barrel.
Protea Glen expect about a 20-minute delay on the R559. That's main road between the R558 and George Sashes. This is due to faulty traffic lights at Wild Chestnut, Tembisa. Accident scene on the R21 southbound before the R25 Buffsfontein off-ramp causing some delays, and in Midrand, traffic pressure on the N1 northbound from the Bethune change to New Road.
In your sport, win or go home as Banyana face Burkina Faso test at WAFCON. The Springboks team for their one-off test against Argentina to be announced tonight. And padded bra claims lead to extra clothing checks for Tour de France riders.
A fine Wednesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Johannesburg drops to an overnight low of 3 degrees, peaking at 23. Pretoria 5 and 24, and Vereeniging 5 and 23. The top story in EWA and the SAWA. The Gauteng High Court has declared the suspension of Public Investment Corporation CEO Patrick Dlamini unlawful, ruling that the PIC board acted outside its powers when it placed him on precautionary suspension.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Eight minutes past 5 on 702 Drive. Good to have you with us on the show. Coming up in the next half an hour or so, at the beginning of the year, we had 508 political parties who were going to contest the local government elections. That number's risen to 620. Is this a deepening of our democracy, an expansion of our options as we make our X? Or is this in many ways a dilution of the political energy of South Africa's people that would be much better served, perhaps, with fewer parties and a much clearer focus of people who find common ground and then set about trying to achieve something that resembles the key principles of that common ground? We'll talk about that shortly to Wayne Sussman, election analyst. And then a little bit later, massive massive problems for the olive oil production sector in the southern parts of Europe. With the extreme heat that has hit Europe over many, many weeks now, there have been fires in olive groves production. And by the way, it hasn't just affected olives, it has affected wine growing areas. It's affected produce of all different kinds. But we're going to focus in on olive oil and ask the question, yes, given how much imported oil you see on supermarket shelves, much of it from Spain is my impression. We're going to see a price hike on those products, but does that open up opportunity for South African producers? Wendy Peterson is CEO of the SA Olive Association, and she'll be joining us shortly to talk about that. That's coming up at about 22 minutes past 5 o'clock. I asked you some questions about whether whistleblowers, I don't know if you can always refer to them as whistleblowers, but people who call out bad behavior, immoral behavior, unethical behavior in the places where you work or the circles in which you move, do they get respect, appreciation, or are they actually ostracized, even reviled and looked down upon? We've asked you for your direct experiences of that, either looking on or perhaps being caught in the middle yourself, and a couple of you have sent us your thoughts. Let's hear.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John and team. So I spoke up recently at work about 2 months ago about something that I'd noticed happening on 3 separate incidents, and on the third time I spoke up because I knew it was incorrect. And what that has done is just created more work for me. So you can imagine how I'll feel about speaking up next time.
Good afternoon, John and the team. On this whistleblowing thing, so I'm in a situation whereby I blew a whistle on some unethical things in the working environment, and ever since talking up about these things, trying to follow right procedure, to get these issues addressed, you find yourself getting victimized, in the workplace, and sometimes it's like very hard to prove because it's not always, because they like to avoid emails. They never like to ever say anything and put it on black and white, but whistleblowers are definitely targets in the workplace, especially if you are working in like the government sectors and so forth. So great show, thanks.
Hi John and the listeners, this is Mnadisi here. I think on the issue of whistleblowing at work, I work in a manufacturing environment, and I've got one rule that if whatever you're doing does not directly affect my job, then it's your problem. I'm not gonna tell and I'm not gonna do anything. But if what you're doing is then affecting my work, then I'm gonna tell. If you're wasting time and I'm waiting for that product to finish it, then I'm gonna tell. But if I see you using company sugar that you mustn't use, it's got nothing to do with me, I just walk away. Thank you.
Fascinating voice notes, and to the two people who spoke about speaking up. It is hard, and I can just say respect. You try to do something that you believe to be right, and the consequences can be really quite awful. And it's a problem because we're a society that keeps saying, we've got all this corruption and blah, 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 but we don't treat people who call it out as well as we should. I think that's absolutely the case. So keep those coming, please, on 072 702 1702. Last part of the show, as we always do, we're going to bring you some music. And today we are celebrating this man who was born on this day 125 years ago. Louis Armstrong, born in New Orleans, many, many years ago. But in 1967, he gave us this song.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Yeah, it's an absolute classic. And the question we're asking you out of that and the enjoyment of Satchmo and his extraordinary voice, not to mention his trumpet playing, is this song that you've come to absolutely love that came out before you were born. Because, yeah, that song was a while ago, 59 years ago. So you can stretch back into the 60s if you like. I'm going to have to go back into the 50s to find songs that I really like that came out then. But give us those songs, please. Do send them to 072 702 1702. And maybe you can include with your voice note, how did you hear the song? Was it something older people in your family circle or maybe a neighbor was playing? How were you introduced to that piece out of the very deep back catalogue of the wonderful world of music? 072 702 1702. We'd love to hear from you. It's 5:15.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. You could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. If you're heading Protea Glenway, Karabo Charlie has an update that you need to know, but it probably won't make you smile, yeah?
Yeah, that's driving through opposite GOG Gardens in Protea Glen. You can expect about a 20-minute delay. R559 Main Road. This is between the R558 and George Sashes. This is all due to faulty traffic lights at Wild Chestnut. There's also an accident scene in the Tembisa area. This is R21 southbound before the R25 Buffsfontein off-ramp, causing some delays. Benoni, traffic sluggish on Atlas Road, approaching the N12, while in Midrand, traffic pressure. N1 northbound from the Butlu interchange to New Road, while in the Joburg CBD, we still have bumper traffic. M1 south from Killarney Bends to the Crown interchange. Bedford View, expect some delays. N3 northbound approaching the Kilulis interchange. That's due to an earlier accident. Edenvale, also slow-moving traffic on the R24 westbound. That's heading into Bedford View between Edenvale Road and the Kilulis interchange. Alex, traffic congested. N3 south from Marlborough Drive to the Kilulis interchange, while in Tshwane. Mainland, expect some delays. N1 south between Atterbury and Rigel Avenue. And finally in Groenkloof, traffic remains heavily backed up on Nelson Mandela Drive as well as George Stora. That's approaching the Fountain Circle. For the latest traffic updates, you can also follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Deciding to ignore the GPS may cost you a longer commute, but deciding to stay with your current car insurance could be costing you thousands of rands in savings a year. With Outsurance, 37-year-old Lerato saves a mind-blowing 599 Rand a month on her 2026 Kia Sonet. Switch to Outsurance today. You too could be one quote away from having more money in your pocket every month. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Licensed insurance and FSP, T's and C's, and information online.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Okay, it's 17 minutes past 5. Let's talk a little bit about this one because local government elections are coming up. Yesterday, we focused on the number of people who registered, the size of the eligible voter pool, and how many people are signing up to take part in November. The other interesting number is at the start of the year, we had 508 political parties that were going to take part. That has now surged to 620. Still some hoops for some of them to jump through before they can actually make it onto the ballot. But it's a very, very interesting number and a fascinating trend. Does this represent a flowering of democratic choice, or does it suggest that maybe our political options paradoxically might be getting diluted? Let's bring in elections analyst Wayne Sussman. Wayne, very good afternoon to you and welcome to the show. Should we view this slightly differently because it's a local government election? So whereas a small, brand new political party doesn't really have a chance to make a showing at provincial level, but if they win a ward or two, well, maybe that's a good thing. Let's just see if we've got Wayne Sussman with us. Wayne, very good afternoon again. Okay, we got a little problem with that line. We're going to fix it. In the meanwhile, I want to get more of your thoughts as you talk to us about whether you've spoken up at work, and if you haven't, what you've observed from other people who take an ethical stand. Does it always work out? Let's hear.
Good afternoon, Uncle John. Regarding your topic on whistleblowing, I remember I used to work for a certain company in the FMCG industry selling very high value items. I'll stay anonymous for this one. We witnessed people stealing on an everyday basis, and unfortunately you did not know who to report it to, because I remember one guy was caught and he was about to commit suicide, and he mentioned all the senior management that were involved, including security. So we just didn't know who to report the matter to. So we just kept quiet and just saw everybody being caught almost daily.
Hello, Tata John. 99% of us want to do the right thing, especially at the workplace. But remember, career limiting moves. Your seniors will not appreciate you pointing out what they're in control of or what they missed. Anonymous here. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, people are making really, really excellent points. I think where it gets really difficult, and this is not to suggest that people should now start sticking out their necks, but I'm wondering if any of you have been in this situation where the company is in some trouble. And the margins, the profits are not as good as they should be. Maybe it's not deep trouble that could lead to closure. But for example, maybe the bonus pool has shrunk from small to non-existent. People say we're not making as much money as we should. And you know, one of the reasons why you're not getting the reward you should, perhaps increase time comes around and you find yourself getting something much smaller than A, you believe you deserve, and B, you know the company should be capable of offering, but there's all this leakage, all this shrinkage, I think is the correct word for it. You can give us a call on that if you've been in that very, very specific situation. Tandanani looks at this in the wider context and timeline of our history and says, coming from the history such as ours in South Africa, where people who reported others were called snitches in Pimpi and their punishment was made a community spectacle in the form of necklacing. This is why in South Africa we presently have rampant corruption, because we have inherited this I scratch your back and you scratch my back culture. And so we really must reverse this culture of looking away when you see wrongdoing by really elevating the status of whistleblowers to one of a rock star. And then we can get rid of this we are comrades mentality, comrades even in crime. This is why we are in this Madlanga Commission mess. Tandanani's view. Give us a call on that on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Okay, let's focus our attention now on that elections issue. 620 political parties. Wayne Sussman, elections analyst. Before I give you the question again, Wayne, let me make sure you can hear me. Good afternoon.
Loud and clear, John.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience as we sorted out the comms. 620 political parties. It sounds like it might represent a massive dilution, except is there an argument that could say, well, if they're competing for one or two or even three wards, it's in the context of a local government election, not a bad thing that somebody can pop up. They are popular in the area where they live. They've decided to pick a good name for a political party. And, you know, even if it's in one ward, they're going to make a difference.
Thank you, John. So one of the interesting developments of the 2021 local government election, particularly in the Free State and the Northern Cape, was the development of these local parties which are only running in one particular municipality and hoping to make a splash. There are examples of parties like that who did well and hold the balance of power in some municipalities. But it's easier said than done. In KwaZulu-Natal, there's a party called Team Sugar, which took Newcastle by storm, but they had tremendous leadership challenges. One thing starting a political party, it's another thing running it over a 5-year plan, over a 5-year term. And that might be the challenge for some of these political parties.
In terms of the voter, I mean, and again, I'm wondering if in a ward your sense of being overwhelmed with choice might be somewhat mitigated because you've got a fair idea of the local issues and you're able to filter through what people are offering, through that particular view. Would we be better served as a country, though, if we had more of a culture of saying, let me find the like-minded, let me go and put my shoulder behind the wheel of a vehicle that's, maybe got a few more kilometers under the belt. Of course, you shouldn't be having to push it. So it's a bad metaphor. You wouldn't want to get into a vehicle you have to push, but I'm sure you know what I mean.
I'm sure I do, and many listeners will certainly as well, John.
Yes.
So let's go to eThekwini. I might be out by one or two, but currently in the council, John, where there are 218 seats, there are 25 political parties represented on that council.
Wow. Okay.
With a huge majority of them having one seat. And I've for my sins, I'm a sucker for punishment. In preparing for election night, I'm going through every single ward, and many of these parties barely make a splash in any single ward, in any ward or in any community, but they accrue enough votes to qualify for a seat, and sometimes they can hold the balance of power. Now, this might invite dysfunction. This might invite coalitions of chaos. However, there are examples where community parties can come together and find local solutions to seemingly insurmountable problems. So it's difficult, John, but 620 is a huge number. It doesn't mean that they'll all be contesting the elections.
Right.
We still have to pay deposits. It's not cheap to contest elections. So let's see what the final number is when those ballots get printed.
When you said you've been visiting ward by ward, something occurred to me. I mean, is there kind of an optimum and on the flip side, a potentially destructive number of parties in a particular ward? Because let's say you got 5 or 6 contesting and, there's maybe a couple of strong candidates, a couple of weaker ones, but whoever gets in with well short of a persuasive majority. I mean, does that create ward level problems? I've been focusing on the bigger picture, but I'm wondering at the level of a ward whether this dilution actually can become very problematic.
Yeah, there's some wards in the Western Cape where parties won with 25% of the vote. But then, as we know, we have by-elections. If a councillor is really unpopular or not doing their job, they can be removed. But correct, you want parties to have as much of a mandate from the voters in their particular ward to represent them. And I've been speaking a lot about areas across South Africa. Let's bring it back to Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni and Tshwane. Often these wards, John, are so large
Yes.
and the issues are so difficult and complex that I really have a lot of empathy for these ward councillors. I'm currently sitting near Rosebank Shopping Centre taking this call, and I think of this particular ward, which extends from one, it goes over 3 major north-south motor roads in the city. It must be very, very hard for that ward councillor, and no doubt other ward councillors in the city. So it can be hard if you represent such a vast, expansive ward to represent the bulk of voters in the ward.
Thank you so much, Wayne Sussman, elections analyst. What do you think? Lots of parties? Do you see that as lots of choice, or do you see it as a fragmentation of political purpose, where people think, if I'm going to do this, I've got to do it myself, which almost guarantees then that they can't do much. So many different ways of looking at it. And as Wayne was suggesting, maybe a ward level experience would shed some light. Give us a call on that. 28 minutes past 5.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, when we last spoke, it was, one of those really excellent days. Did it finish in quite such a sparky fashion?
Yeah, quite a lot of fizz in the last hour, John. So oil prices dropped just for a little while below $80. They're sort of just above there now. But the JSE retaining its sparkle, up 1.4%, 114,256 points. Financials up 1.4%, industrials up a third, and resources up nearly 3%. That's largely because platinum prices are up 6% on the day, John. So Valterra up 9.2%, Sibanye up 6.68%, Implats and Northam up by around 6%. Nedbank is up 6% too, 5.99%. Their results surprised on the upside. They had said that they would probably have a slight dip in headline earnings per share because of their sale of their stake in EcoBank, but actually their headline earnings per share are up just 0.1%, making a bit more money from lending and from home loans, keeping costs contained. We'll speak to their CEO, Jason Quinn, on the Money Show tonight. The JSE also doing quite nicely. High levels of trading activity, which is a nice way of saying volatility on the markets, John, having a big impact on their bottom line. So their headline earnings per share up 19%. High volumes mean more fees for them. They say they want to use the cash to fund some strategic investments in the future. Anglo's up 4.74, Momentum's up 3.5, and we see South 32 up 2.87 as well. Another tough day for Telkom. They're down 3.13%, obviously on the back of those interims out yesterday. Canal Plus down 2.38%, and MTN down 2% as well. And Sasol, of course, taking a bit of pain from low oil prices. They're down 2%. In the US, the S&P 500 actually breaking an intraday record a little earlier, largely because of more optimism around AI stocks. That's after forecasts from Caterpillar and Palantir. Dow Jones is up 1.48. The Nasdaq is up 1.69. The S&P 500 is up 1.18%. The gold price $4,081.26. Platinum $1,739.86. Brent crude $80.61 a barrel. The rand to the dollar $16.40 to the euro, $18.89 to the British pound, $22.05. On the Money Show tonight, the Nedbank CEO, also Valdine Reddy, the CEO at the JSE. John, a deep dive into these traffic fine scams. So we'll speak to the Road Traffic Infringement Agency. We'll speak to a forensic expert. When can you put your details in? When can't you? We'll talk also to one of those sites that manage your traffic fines. I want to know from them what happens to their online traffic. You know, remember when the city of Joburg, none of their speed cameras were working?
Yes, yes.
Did people stop going there to check? Did they keep going? You know, what was it like? I think there's a lot to ask about how traffic fines work or don't, to be honest, in South Africa at the moment. And then don't forget, in personal finance, how lifestyle creep can eat into your increase. I mean, how often do you get an increase and a year later you feel poorer? Where's the money? Look around. Stephen Curtis.
And all the stuff you bought. Yes.
EWN.
And the contracts you signed. Goodness me. Stephen Curtis with the Money Show. Great lineup as always. That's between 6 and 8. It's 29 minutes to 6. Kosikona Malinga Mnisi is standing by to update you on what's happening in the wide world. Good afternoon.
Yes, John, good afternoon. Thank you. No planes are able to land at Cape Town International Airport after a Kenya Airways aircraft suffered a tire puncture while landing. The airport company says at around 3:25 p.m., flight KQ784 became disabled on the primary runway. As a result, all arriving flights are being diverted to alternative airports. Domestic departures are continuing as normal, but international wide-body departures have been suspended while recovery operations are underway. Passengers are being urged to check with airlines or the AXA mobile app for the latest information on delays and diversions before heading to the airport. Two police witnesses have given conflicting accounts of key events surrounding the arrest of accused number 1 Musa Kekana in the trial of alleged underworld figure Vusumuzi Matlala. Police officers Tumelo Tsotetsi and Pimi Khubela differed on whether Toyota Fortuner was present where Kekana received medical treatment and the circumstances surrounding the arrival of paramedics. Kekana and 4 co-accused are facing a combined 25 charges, including attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. As Timaka Timakazo Leshoro reports.
Captain Sekgobela maintained no Toyota Fortuner was at the scene where Musa Kekana was arrested and denied that Kekana was transported in one. Tsotetse, by contrast, testified that a paramedic arrived in a black unmarked Toyota Fortuner on 8th Road where Kekana was arrested. Kekana's lawyer, advocate Rian Gesing, confronted Tsotetse about his evidence that Kekana was coughing at the scene of arrest and that his rights were read to him, but none of these details were included in his statement.
You see, Colonel, someone is lying. Someone is not telling the truth. Between yourself and Sekgobela.
The two officers also gave differing accounts of Kekana's medical treatment. Tsotetse says paramedics treated him on 8th Road, while Sekgobela insisted Kekana was never taken to 8th Road after he was taken to his house following the arrest. Timakazo Leshoro, Eyewitness News, Johannesburg High Court.
And Postbank says it's confident it has the capacity to replace every remaining SASSA Gold card, that is, before the August 31st deadline. Around 280,000 social grant beneficiaries nationwide still need to migrate to the new Postbank Black Card. Officials briefed the Western Cape Standing Committee on Social Development today, revealing that more than 43,000 of those beneficiaries are in that province. Postbank Chief Operating Officer Eureka Singh says they've deployed additional staff to high-demand areas.
Our previous round of replacement tells us that people generally show up in the last month, and we have done all we can from our side in terms of communication. I mean, Dr. Diako has gone into it in quite a lot of detail because it's really the only lever we have to encourage people to come forward aside from the deadline date. We certainly have the capacity on the ground and the capability to replace every single card. So, yes, we're confident that where beneficiaries show up, we will be able to replace those cards by the end of the month.
A fine Wednesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Temperatures to peak between 23 and 24 degrees.
In Soweto, Protea Lane, expect about a 20-minute delay on the R559. That's main road between the R558 and George Sachs due to faulty traffic lights at Wild Chestnut. In Doornkop, still in Soweto, traffic heavily backed up on the R558 between Main Street and Wild Chestnut. Finally, in Tembisa, we still have that accident scene, R21 southbound before the R25 Popsfontein off-ramp, slowing down traffic.
The top story in EWN at this half hour: no planes are able to land at Cape Town International Airport. That's after Kenya Airways aircraft suffered a tyre puncture while landing.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
The Morita Forestry collapse. Joel Cedrus, what was Morita Forestry?
Morita Forestry was an investment specifically targeted towards South Africans, and you were investing in what they called a woodland investment. So you could start with anything from 350 Rand up until 320,000 Rand.
What did people think they were actually investing in?
The influencers that marketed the scheme, one of the things they said was that by investing in a woodland, you are profiting from the oxygen that the tree produces.
Profiting from oxygen?
Yes, exactly.
But you can't sell oxygen, I mean, as you and I so well know, Joel.
No, exactly.
Are there any particular horror stories that stand out in terms of the monies people might have poured into this?
Quite a handful of people committed suicide following their realization that they lost money in the scheme. There were also people that had put in their entire pensions.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
We're giving you millions of reasons to celebrate with our selection of Lucky Millions Lotto draws. You could claim major jackpots when you pick numbers from thousands of daily draws. Choose numbers on UK 49s, Euro Millions, and lots more from just R5 per line. Enjoy more chances and more ways to win, all in one place. Grab your chance to celebrate extraordinary riches when you play Lucky Millions from Hollywood Bets. Bet now.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Chamberlain is now in the 4th generation and at 10 locations throughout Gauteng, with a new branch in the East Rand in September. Our differentiator is our long-serving and loyal staff, available and knowledgeable. Can we help you? Big on stock, strong on service, built on values. Chamberlain, famous for hardware since 1903.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John. Hope you're well. Chris Yellen made a very interesting point, which along the lines of it's saving the economy money, the fact that ESCOM is not facing us with load shedding, but I think it's difficult to factor in how many consumers, whether it's business or residential, are off the grid, which definitely reduces the load or demand on ESCOM, but also how much money has been invested by private sector in order to address the load shedding cycle. And I think that's an answer that's almost impossible to get, but nonetheless, a lot of money has been invested by taxpayers in order to assist ESCOM and alleviate the pressure that they have. This is Yusuf from Johannesburg.
Hi, John. This is Cynthia. I must agree with that caller about that hospital that our president just opened in Mpumalanga. When you think about 2017, why would there be no corruption? I can assure you, if I was an investigative journalist, I would go dig right there and I would find corruption. 2017, corruption free, never ever heard of. This is Cynthia.
702. No, it definitely does not pay to stick your neck out, to blow any whistle. I myself have seen this many times. I worked for the biggest data center company in South Africa, internationally. And I ended up getting fired because I thought I was doing the right thing, only to find out I was annoying the big people. So yeah, definitely no. But every time I get the opportunity, I repeat it again. I do it again. And I would do it again if I had to do it today. I would blow the whistle every time.
Yeah, thank you for that. A question we asked earlier, if you blow the whistle in some way, shape or form on unethical or illegal conduct in the place where you work, what kind of treatment do you get? The previous caller saying, it's bad to stick your neck, or the consequences of sticking your neck out are unpleasant. And Fifi has a story that she sent by text that would confirm that, and says, I cancelled an order that looked dodgy. It was loaded by a support manager who's also an executive. Last Friday, he sent a complaint to my manager saying that I'm incompetent in my job, but he never mentioned the order that I cancelled. Please keep those coming, and thank you for your stories. And those of you who have stood up for the right thing, thank you for that. It's 20 to 6.
EWN Sport.
Yeah, this evening, Banyana. The defense hasn't been great so far in this AFCON, but hey, there's always tonight and a chance to go through to the next round. Tolakele has the thoughts of the coach and more besides.
Thanks so much, John. And they'll hope that those errors are now behind them when they take on Burkina Faso at WAFCON tonight. They need to win and hope that Ivory Coast do the same against Tanzania in the other Group B game. That's in order to advance to the quarterfinals. Desiree Ellis says the message is clear ahead of a tournament saving 90 minutes.
First, we have to secure the 3 points and then, take it probably in stages and say by this time we need to be there, by that time we need to be there, etc. But first of all, we have to win. And then take it stage by stage during the game to make sure that we get the result that we want, that we put ourselves in a position where we have set ourselves the target and then, wait on the other results.
Banyana have only twice before failed to reach the knockout stages at WAFCON, and that was in 1998 and 2004. Forward Antonia Mabonya has discussed their attempts to avoid being the third team to achieve that unwanted feat.
Tomorrow's game is going to be one of the most important games because it's the last game of the group stages and it's a must win for us. So we know what is expected out of us and we're going to have to do whatever it takes to accumulate the 3 points. The pressure is always there, especially when you play at tournaments like this. So there will be pressure, but also we also know what we have to do. Regardless of pressure or not, you must do what we have to do.
The Springbok camp say they're ready for a grueling challenge against Argentina when the teams meet in a one-off test this weekend. South Africa are using the game as part of their preparations for the greatest rivalry series against New Zealand, while the match day 23 for Saturday's encounter will be named tonight. Scrum half Morne van der Berg is hoping for a call-up after his recovery from injury.
So I had an opportunity to upskill, to get fitter, to work on my on mentality to get it stronger. You don't always get what you think in the moment is best for you, but I did my best to make my situation, to make the best out of it. And then to come back and just compete with them, it's incredible.
And riders at the Tour de France Femmes were today subjected to extra clothing checks following claims that some could be using extra padding in their bras to seek an aerodynamic advantage. A communique from race organisers confirmed the checks after teams raised concerns that padded bras could smooth the airflow around the body for the Stage 4 time trial. As for the race itself, Uno ex-mobility rider Sigrid Hogarth is the yellow jersey leader after her Stage 3 victory on Monday. Tholakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Earlier we had problems in Protea Glen. Those are persisting, but for an overall picture, Karabo Charlie is with us once again. Good day.
Yeah, that's driving opposite GOG Gardens. We still have about a 20-minute delay in Protea Glen on the R559 main road between the R558 and George Sashes. This is due to faulty traffic lights at Wild Chestnut, while in Doornkop. Still in Soweto, traffic heavily backed up on the R558 between Main Street and Wild Chestnut. In Tembisa, there's that accident scene, R21 southbound before the R25 Bufffontein off-ramp, causing heavy delays from Olifantsfontein Road. So if you're leaving Pretoria Centurion heading towards OR Tambo International Airport, allow for extra traveling time. Benoni, traffic remains sluggish on Atlas Road approaching the N12. In Sandton, traffic is gridlocked. M1 North from Corler to the Patlu interchange. Midrand, traffic pressure on the N1 North from the Patlu interchange to New Road. While if you're traveling through the Joburg CBD heading towards Boysons, we still have bumper to bumper traffic. This is on the M1 southbound from Killarney Benz to the Crown interchange. And in Alex, traffic remains congested traveling towards Bedfordview N3 South from Marlborough Drive to the Gilulis interchange. For the latest traffic updates, you can also follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
5:45, our music theme for today, inspired by the fact that today in 1901, Louis Armstrong was born in New Orleans. Yeah, and we earlier played one of his best-known songs, What a Wonderful World, a really special song for me. But we've been asking you songs that came out before you were born, but that somehow you were introduced to, and they found a little space in your heart and on your playlist. Please keep sending those on 072 702 1702. In fact, let's hear one of your notes.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi John. Old classics. My Girl by the Temptations. I used to come to love that song. Our neighbor over weekends used to sing that song to his wife when he had a couple of whiskeys behind him. He was the singer singing My Girl to his wife, and I grew up with that song and used to love it. Still love it. Good song.
If you were born after 1964, The Temptations with My Girl came out before you were born, but it's still around, and it's still as wonderful as it was then. Not that I heard it when I was 5, but I heard it soon afterwards, if I recall. 702 Drive, keep them coming. Songs that you love that came out before you were born. 072 702 1702.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
The most people in this country who are subjected to violence and assault are women and children. That's just the reality. So let's not try equate the two and say it's at the same level. It's not. The statistics don't demonstrate that. And yes, are there men out there who are probably in prison for being wrongfully accused? Absolutely. Are there men in our society whose careers have been ruined because an ex was upset that the relationship is ending? Absolutely. But do you know how many people are scared to even have this conversation? They are. They're scared because they're scared of being seen as you're a misogynist. I know that there are people that are going to come after me for even opening up this chat. And you know the sad thing? The people who falsely accuse men, they ruin it for other women who genuinely get assaulted.
Clements Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
Smart business moves save money. Switch to Outsurance Business Insurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Here's Stephen from the Villa Rosa.
I was with my previous insurer for 8 years and then I switched to Outsurance Business Insurance. I'm very happy with the premiums and switching was the best decision we ever made.
Get a quote to switch and save today. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 0600 60,000. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Big advances in health are happening right here in South Africa. Local researchers are studying a new TB vaccine called M72 that could help stop people from getting seriously ill. And programs like Cochimpilo are helping men living with HIV overcome stigma, start treatment and stay on it through peer support and private chat guidance. It's South Africans helping shape the future of global health, supported by the Gates Foundation for 25 years. Partners of human potential.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon there, John. You're speaking to Joy from Boxback Kleppoki. Some of the music that I used to listen to before, that used to play before I was born, mostly came from 702 itself. When Eleanor Moore was there, I think about 10 years ago, he had a show that used to be called The Bandstand. And I can think of a lot of musicians out of that era. But the one that came to mind instantly was one by Johnny Mathis. It's Misty. Thank you, John.
Look at me, I'm as helpless as a kitten up a tree, and I feel like I'm clinging to a cloud. I can't understand, I get misty just holding your hand. Walk my way, and 1,000.
Look at me, I'm as helpless as a kitten up a tree. What a lovelorn lyric. Absolutely brilliant. Johnny Mathis from 1959. I might borrow that at some point. I'm not quite sure when. I might put it to use. But there we go. This is wonderful from Sichaba. It's a short message, but so rich with history and memory. Let me share it with you. Evening, John. A song released before I was born that I like is When I Fall in Love by Nat King Cole. And he says it was my uncle's favorite. It reminded him of the good times they used to have at the Bantu Men's Social Center in Elof Street. And just a quick allusion to the richness of what Sichaba is sharing. The Bantu Men's Social Center was formed in 1924. It was a place of socializing, of music, of, I would say, cultural dignity from everything I've read in very, very difficult times for black people in South Africa. It lasted all the way until 1971, and what's really interesting about it was its next door neighbor was a place called Dorkay House, which was another absolute well of cultural innovation and music and and dignity in Johannesburg in the day. Artists coming out of Dorka include, for example, the legendary Abigail Kubeka, who was on with Relebohile recently. But enough from me. Here's Nat King Cole.
And the moment I can feel that you feel that way too is when I fall in love with
Sure. Nat King Cole, and I think Natalie Cole singing alongside there as well. Nizam, Nizam's picked a great one. Tracks of My Tears, Smokey Robinson. Love that as well. Gail Etta James, At Last. Childhood memories when all the fathers in our area would gather on a Friday and play LPs. LPs. Vinyl for those of you who never grew up with the before the music started. Fabulous memories for me just hearing the word LPs. Let's go back to your voice notes.
Hi, John. The song, I think, which is either older than me or the same age as I am, was featured in a series called The Wonder Years. I think whether early 2000s or early 90s, by Joe Cocker, with a little help from my friends. Zuko speaking. Thanks.
The song that I used to love ever since I was young is Pata Pata by Ukok Miriam Makeba. I used to love that song. Apparently, even when I was still very, very young, I would dance with my hands and feet every time they were playing the song.
Pata Pata, Miriam Makeba. I love the description. I would dance with my hands and my feet. I'm sure your head was probably bobbing around and moving as well. Marek goes to a different memory and says, my favorite song before I was born, and that brings back great memories, is White Christmas by Bing Crosby. Now, there was reference to Joe Cocker with a little help from my friends. Some of you will know that that song was originally done by the Beatles. I think it was on the Sgt. Pepper's album, Sgt. Pepper's album that came out in 1967. A year later, Joe Cocker did this, and we'll play it for you now. But in the meanwhile, if you're online, go to Joe Cocker at Woodstock. That is a very, very special version of what you're about to hear.
What would you do if I sang out of tune?
I wish we could play more of that, but very, very special. And as I say, the version he delivered at Woodstock is just visually and never mind the audio, just fabulous to watch. Tutu, the song I used to love is Downtown by Petula Clark. Another good one. What else have we got? Let's hear.
Song that that found a tiny little space in my heart, but it lingers forever.
in my memory whenever I think of my late brother is Brooke Benton's version of Heaven Help Us All. It is a song that, it has taken me through at least 4 decades of my life.
Hi, Uncle John. Muzi here in Rodiport. The song for me in this theme is the Righteous Brothers. I think the song is called Unchained Melodies. Love it to bits. Cheers, Malumi John, and everyone at 702. See.
I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time. In time.
The Righteous Brothers. Yeah, this one's come up. I think this came up as favorite songs when slow dancers were becoming a part of a night out. Memories of school halls and things like that. All the way back in 1965. So whoever sent that was born a little bit later than that.
Hi, Ntate John. This is Yolande from Centurion. The song that it's very old school. I don't even think my parents were born when it when it came out. It's by Barry Manilow, and it's called "I Write the Songs." It's "I write the songs will make the whole world sing." Yeah, that's my song. Thank you, Yolande from Centurion.
I've been alive forever, and I wrote the very first song. I put the words and the melodies together. I am music, and I write the song.
You know, I can't decide if this feature is making me feel old or incredibly young. Who cares? It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for your suggestions. Lovely, lovely music. I'm going to go home and play a few of those. I think I might start with Downtown, actually. This has been 702 Drive. I'm John Perlman from the whole team who put the show together. Have yourselves a wonderful Tuesday night. Good night.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking, turning intent into execution. That's how ABSA are invested in Africa's energy future. Good evening. On your Money Show tonight, Nedbank surges as it beats expectations while making more money from loans and mortgages. Market volatility lifts the JSE's fees and their earnings by nearly 20%. We do a deep dive into the dangers of traffic fine scams tonight with the Road Traffic Infringement Agency, a forensic investigator, and the head of Fine SA. How to check if a bank's really